We are adjourning at 6:01 p.m. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started with a call to order and roll call. I'll start with Vice President Raquel Alvarez. Present. Eleanor Evans.
Present.
Eric Joyce.
Present.
I'm here, obviously, and Mike Blessing is unable to be here. He'll be absent today due to a successful medical procedure. Needs some time to recover. All right, let's go to item 2B, Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could stand. Eleanor Evans will be leading us in the flag salute.
Please face the flag. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Eleanor. Item 2C, Public Report of Action Taken in Closed Session. There is no report out tonight. Item 2D, Approval of Agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
All right, I have a first and a second. No discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving tonight's agenda, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Unfortunately, the high school students have a well-deserved summer break, so we won't be hearing from them tonight, which is sad because that's my favorite part. So we're moving on to item 3A, the superintendent's report. Dr. Vitale?
Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to take a little bit more time on my report this evening because I want to share some of the accomplishments that have happened over this entire year. And these accomplishments have transpired due to the decisions made by this Board of Education and in programs and led by this cabinet team. So programs and projects led specifically by this cabinet team and participation from staff members that not only were doing their jobs, but participated on our committees and our task forces and our projects and other things to lead to these successes. So, and I want to share that this is by no means a complete list of what was accomplished this year, but just a little snapshot into the work and to take this cabinet and staff a little bit down memory lane. So at the beginning of the year, we established free accessible COVID-19 testing at 7 sites, 5 days a week for students, staff, and community. We distributed over 16,500 COVID-19 at-home test kits. We had a successful pilot of elementary furniture, and all TK5 classes will receive that furniture this summer, and our first delivery began yesterday. Between Proposition H and W, over 34 bond projects are in the queue, which include a remodel of Pablo Talk, Jefferson, Surfside, North Terrace, a rebuild of Reynolds, so thank you so much to the voters. Our HR team initiated a new Aspiring Leaders Academy, and some of those applied for and were hired as new assistant principals in OUSD. We had a planning and initial deployment of mobile flat screens to all classrooms. Our community schools program was established at 4 schools, and we're growing it to 2 more next year. Our special education task force created recommendations at the end of literally 4 years of work that you will be receiving tonight. Our portrait of a graduate, adult, and system will guide our strategic work forward, where we had over 70 community participants participate over this entire year before and during and through the heights of the pandemic this year. We expanded TK to all sites. We adopted TK5 History Social Science. We had a TK5 History Social Science adoption. We had a 6 through 12 ELD adoption. We had a 6 through 12 English Language Arts adoption. We had a 6 through 12 History Social Science adoption. We, for the first time, had advanced placement Spanish at the middle school. So we had 18 8th graders take an advanced placement test, and I believe that most, if not all, will pass that test. So we will have middle school students with college level credits. We launched our Out for Safe Schools badge campaign. We secured additional funding to extend our before and after school programs at every school at no cost to families. We created a new logo. We had an approval for the rebuild of a district office, which will house over 100 employees. We have a successful presence on various social media platforms. We applied for and received over $10 million in various grants. And tonight we will be presenting to the Board of Education a budget that meets its obligations for the next 3 years. So I want to thank this board of their commitment to all staff and students. I want to thank the cabinet team for leading these various projects. And I want to thank all of the staff members that, again, did their job and participated in many of these projects and pilots. So thank you for that amazing work. It's just the beginning of more great things to come in OUSD. And thank you for the additional time.
Thank you for that list. Nice work. Thanks, staff. Wow. And that was only some of them. Nice. All right, moving on to item 3B, board reports. I'm going to start with Vice President Raquel Alvarez.
Okay, here we go. Okay, I did a lot this year, and I first want to, I'll go ahead and I'll start with the Rising Star Scholarship recipients. We had, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce in the city of Oceanside. They chose every month. They had some of our scholars were chosen to be rising stars within their schools, and in the end, they gave scholarships to them. So for El Camino High School, we had Angela Hernandez, Ariane Perdue, and Nijo. And from OHS, we had Daniel Cruz, Diane Ibarra, Julissa Beltran, Sabria Mosley. From Surfside, we had Zitlali Valverde Gomez, Angel Gomez Galvan, and Jasmine Perez. And from Packview, we had Jonathan Dolores. I also want to take a moment to congratulate the AVID class of 2022. They rock. I mean, this year we had 70 of our 73 AVID seniors that have been accepted to universities, 42 of which are AVID seniors are graduating with honors. AVID seniors won a total of $287,200 in scholarships alone. So congratulations to all of those students and doing the amazing work that they've done in all these years that they've been in our schools, and just the work that they've done just to get to where they are today. I went to a lot of stuff this last month. It's been amazing. We have had promotions. We have had programs, different celebrations at many of our school sites. We had El Camino Spring Concert. We had the OHS Sabre Awards. We had teacher retirements. We lost a lot of great staff this year, and that's the unfortunate part. But I went to CSEA meetings with just to meet with them to see what was going on within them. I went to the OHS ROTC award ceremony, because of course my kid's in it, and I had to see all the awards he was getting, which as a parent was in awe because he had so many awards coming to him. Had a meeting with the Boys and Girls Club, was a part of the wellness committee, and just seeing what the things that we want to be able to do within our school sites and everything that we're doing. I went to the Green and White game at OHS. I was able to celebrate and be a part of the SLR, the Seagator medley program that they had, the Garrison group. The kids put on some amazing program. You know, it was just work that the staff did, the teachers did, everything that they worked together with these students. I went to the Libre promotion. I went and worked again in the OHS food pantry. We had the groundbreaking ceremony at SLR changing the name to Pablo Talk. Was able to see the amazing, the Red Falcon. Is it Red Falcon? Red Hawk. Their new Red Tail Hawk, right? Their new logo is amazing that they came up with. So to that staff, you guys did an amazing, awesome job. Thank you so much. Went to the TWI recognition ceremony, all the graduations for all of our school and staff. We went to OHS, to El Camino, to Surfside, and just seeing the love and the passion of all of our students within these graduations was awesome. So to the staff, I want to take a moment to thank my fellow board members and the administrative staff as we went to all these different activities that were within our schools. But I want to thank our administrators and the staff at each of our school sites. You guys have worked endless hours, many hours that we don't see a lot of that. We don't get to thank you and we don't appreciate a lot of those things that you do off the clock. And I want to take a moment to let you know that I personally thank you, because there is so much that you have done that we don't see until things like this happen. And we get to see all the final work of everything that you've done, of all your endless hours, the tutoring that you do after school, before school, the working with the students that just need that little bit of extra help, to sit there with that student that just needs a little bit more love and compassion to get them to school that next day. All these things mean something to our community. So I want to thank you all, because we're about all means all. We're about every student in this community. We're about every student that's here. And we want to make sure that they have the best that they could possibly get. And there is no way that that could happen unless you are all here doing it together. So I thank each and every one of you that are here at these tables. For those that are out there, for those that are at home watching, I thank every one of you, because I know that you all so much need that rest. And so many of you are not taking it because you're still here for our students now during, summer school, and are still working through to get ready for even next year what we're going to be doing, and the amazing programs that we're going to be offering, and the different things that we're going to be doing within this school year. So thank you, thank you, thank you. There's nothing more that I can say other than it has been an amazing, tiring, exhausting year for each and every one of us. And we have learned so much from each other. We have grown so much together as a staff, as a community. So thank you again to everyone out there.
Thank you, Raquel, for that great report. I'm going to move on to Eleanor Evans.
I think Raquel says it all.
She did say a lot.
That was fabulous. I'd like to congratulate all of the high school graduates. I do want to point out that Surfside Education Academy, Surfside High School, has had the largest graduating class in its history. So congratulations to all those good folks. I too met with the Boys and Girls Club. That's one of our partners, and they provide our after-school program and holiday academic programs for our Oceanside scholars. We talked about scholarships, and one of the things that's come up is that the North County African American Women's Association had their event at the Boys and Girls Club, and they gave away over $45,000 worth of scholarships to young ladies of every ethnicity, creed, belief in Oceanside. And there was an entirely different set of students than the ones that were at the Martin Luther King Scholarship Program. This is an amazing district, absolutely amazing. These young ladies happen to be going to the Ivy League colleges, the Big Ten colleges, Cal State, Harvard, the UC system, and to about 4 or 5 out-of-state universities. It was amazing. It is amazing. I am so proud of our students and the hard work they do, and the fact that we have such a phenomenal group of educators who push them forward. When I say educators, I mean everyone. If you work at the school, you're involved with the school some kind of way, at whatever level, you're an educator, you're a teacher, you're a role model. So I thank you all. We thank you all. I attended the Equity Conference, San Diego County Office of Education, and basically as board members, we need to be made aware and educated as to how we can improve the achievement of our students as they move forward to becoming the best individual they can become, and as well as making this district the best district. We are on our way. It is phenomenal, the things that are happening in this district. I kind of wish I was a student again. Okay. Congratulations to the students who graduated from the Dual Language Immersion Program. That's phenomenal. That's a landmark. We're only, is it 2 districts, correct me, that have this program? And it really needs to be advertised. We are phenomenal. We're so far ahead in that area. I attended the California School Board Association Delegate Assembly. They do have a bill on transportation. The governor has approved it. The legislation is saying it's holding it for obvious reasons in terms of what's going on with the gas, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, congratulations to Keene Middle School. They were able to revamp and reinvigorate their National Junior Honor Society, and is phenomenal. Coming back from COVID and having, 20 or 30, I wish Mr. Wright was here, 20 or 30 students who qualify for the National Junior Honor Society. I attended Career Tech Spring Exhibit. Again, another phenomenal program. In fact, I was not aware that we did TEDx. And I know that El Cajon has invited me to drive down to El Cajon to see their TEDx, and I happened to mention that. And our teacher of the year, Christina Vasquez, says, "Oh no, we have one here." I said, "What?" So, folks, those of you who think that we're not about, we are about. We are phenomenal. Okay. I was very much involved with the Pride flag, raising the flag. We are an inclusive school district. We're public education. We accept everyone. We want everyone to feel at home, feel comfortable. We respect all students. We believe in the safety, dignity of our students, and we want them to feel home, which is probably one of the reasons why we're moving so high up. Students finally are feeling like they're appreciated. Nothing succeeds like success. Simple as that. Nothing succeeds like success. The Ethnic Studies curriculum training and Ethnic Studies community events, again, that's another phenomenal. We're so far ahead of the state. We're still seeking information. We're still doing research in terms of making sure that all groups are represented within the Oceanside community. Okay, I'm currently involved with a national conference, the National Coalition on Education Equity, which is part of the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators. And we will be asking folks from Oceanside whether staff, faculty, or community, or board members to participate in this, doing presentations. We do a lot of good stuff, but we don't get the publicity. And I think we need to really push that area. And I mean that sincerely. It's not a negative that we don't get the publicity, because we're so busy working and focused on doing our very best. Okay? But sometimes, what's that expression about? The rooster that crows. Okay? Today I had the opportunity to address the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, Area 5, Jim Desmond, because Mr. Desmond, or Supervisor Desmond, is very much involved with wanting to promote Oceanside School District in terms of giving us support financially, as well as some other areas in terms of what he calls the blueprint for safety. And we're listening. We're listening. Okay? That's my report.
Thank you, Eleanor. And I'll turn it over to Eric Joyce.
Yeah, it was a busy month. I'll highlight my 3 big highlights. I'll keep it to 3. The Dr. King Scholarship Garden and the scholarships that were given out. It was so much money, but the stories that are told by those scholars every year, I have to wear my glasses every time because I will just leave there wrapped in tears. Every year there are several students who highlight their families who risked literally everything to leave home, cross an imaginary border, and give their child a chance at the American dream. And those kids take that up, and they're going off to college to do amazing things and to change the world. And it is so powerful to see in real time. The work that we're doing and the work that we do to bring families in and to bring up these incredible young people is so powerful. It is changing the world. That's a good start. The second one doesn't get any better. It's Pride by the Beach, where it was an incredible event that draws people from all over the region to Oceanside. It's hosted here in Oceanside, and the keynote speaker was none other than our own Dr. Julie Vitale. Her leadership and her visibility and her willingness to share her personal story, it's not something that just changes lives. It actually saves lives. It's incredibly powerful. So I'm just very thankful that for your willingness to do that. And then the third one, my big joy was the graduations. They 3 in one day. They're amazing. And in fact, later on, even at Pride by the Beach, one of the students who graduated came up and said, "Oh, I saw you at graduation. You were up on stage. It's so good to see you here too." So all those connections are beautiful. It is the most joyous day. And I know that it's not a joy for every single student, but for the kids and families that are there, the relief of a tough run of years is very special. And the OHS salutatorian, I have to highlight, she had her moment to shine, her moment to say, look at all these awesome things I did, and instead she gave it up to throw down the gauntlet to us to say, hey, we need to take seriously gun violence against our children. And she spent all of her time talking about how we can do better and how we have to do better. So her powerful example is what I will leave with. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Well, mine will be much shorter. They said a lot of what I've already done. The graduations were amazing. I did 4 in one day. Sorry. Raquel beat me with 5. But one of the graduations that always brings a tear to my eyes is our adult transition program. And they were amazing. Anyways, you get to hear from the families and the other students, and it's very personable, and it's a tearjerker for sure. But that was really cool to see that again this year. And anyways, yeah, I'm going to let that go because you guys said everything already. So we're going to move on to our labor partners, item 3C. Oceanside Teachers Association President. So no report? All right. You guys are taking the summer off. So is CSEA. All right. Moving on to item 4, general consent items. Do I have a motion to approve? Wait. Hold on. Before we do this, I need to see public comment. Yeah. Where are they at? Oh, okay. Ooh, you fancy form here. All right. So we do have some public comment for general consent items. So before we do that, I will turn it over to Anne to call them up.
Okay. So our first speaker for item 4D will be Rose Higuera. Is she here? Okay, so I'll come back when I see her come in. For item 4RR, Lisa Turner.
So as Lisa Turner's coming up, the Board of Education is happy to receive public comments. We look forward to hearing from the public. I just want to remind, because I see some new faces in the audience, you have 3 minutes to speak. There will be a timer that will come up on the screen, so you'll see it there. And then when your time's up, your public comment is over. You can't ask us questions. I mean, you can ask us questions we can't answer during public comment. So I don't want you to feel like we're being rude. So just wanted to say that. And all right, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Turner from Palomar Family Counseling Service. I'm happy to be here. So thank you for having me, Board of Education and OUSD administration. I'm here. I know the approval of our contract is a general consent item, so maybe I don't really need to be here, but I felt it was important for 2 reasons. I really want to say 2 things. One is thank you for your partnership. We really do take the I think it is a privilege to continue to serve the mental health needs of Oceanside Unified students and their families, and we really appreciate that. So thank you for that. And also, I wanted to call out a thank you to you for your acknowledgement that students' mental health needs are vast and they need to be addressed. And I believe that this district is taking this very seriously. I just see that from the actions that you've taken, from supporting putting school counselors in every school, and a lot of other items that come through LCAP, and through your partnerships with other community organizations as well. We know it takes a village, but we know students' mental health needs are really important, and I think it really comes down to you understanding that if their mental health needs are unaddressed, then you can't do your job of educating them. And so we're really thrilled to be a partner in that, and thank you for your support. This year, under the contract, this year our staff served 835 students in 20 schools, and that's really remarkable. We have never served that many before. We've never had that many referrals before. So I think that just kind of speaks to some of the things that we saw this year, which was increased, higher need, mental health needs, certainly greater referrals. We saw greater family involvement, which is great. And we also had really greater collaboration. I mean, I think we've long been good collaborators, but the last couple years, it's just been really amazing, the extra efforts that have been put forth by the school counselors, by school administrators, by teachers. Just the care coordination for students has really been tremendous. So we're happy for that. And we're also pleased to report that we were able to obtain a small amount of funds. It's not a lot of money, but it's a little bit to help support students' needs in the summer. So for students who don't get their needs met in the summer, we have a scholarship fund. So all of our counselors have identified students on their caseloads that were really high risk, that they're concerned about not getting service in the summer, as well as trying to address the needs of some of the students who were referred late in the year and could not be seen just due to capacity and into the school year. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you again for your continued partnership.
Thank you for the public comment.
Next speaker, Katie Taylor on item 4LL.
Good evening. Good evening. Walking in here today, I presume the school board wants their safety protected because I saw 2 police officers and 2 police cars out front. Regarding Superintendent Vitelli, I would like to express my deep disapproval of her performance. I'm holding a letter posted on the Oceanside Unified School District website on a horrific shooting at Robb Elementary School in Texas, in Uvalde, Texas, referring to Oceanside.
Excuse me, are you speaking on item LL?
That's what they told me to speak on.
Okay.
Okay? All schools have full-time counselors and mental health professionals available for students. Please don't hesitate to reach out for support. Well, I'm telling you, so far as I know, these resources can't stop an active shooter. There is no information on school campus safety at our elementary and junior high schools. Next item that's in the report in her letter. Please know safety is a top priority at OUSD. Our schools are required to practice lockdown training throughout the year. We have an updated and approved crisis response plan. This is key. 2 of our high schools have participated in Diamond Safety Training, which is the most up-to-date crisis training provided by the San Diego County Office of Education. So 2 high schools have resource officers, in other words, security. Where does that leave the junior high and elementary schools? The school shooting in Texas was at an elementary school. I guess in Oceanside, they're just out of luck on on-site security. 2 days later, I was appalled to attend the CTE showcase, Career Technology and Education, El Corazon Senior Center. Remember, just 2 days after the massacre in Texas, there was no police security on site. When I was present, there was a large crowd of parents and students, and not one police officer. You have 2 out here. There was not one there. Bottom line, under Superintendent Vitelli, there's no real-time security for students. But if you need grief counseling, just go to the website. Vitelli, over this failure, this school board, I know they're too weak. You should resign or be fired. Plenty of money to raise the bloated salary of Superintendent Vitelli and teachers, but not enough to protect our kids.
All right. Thank you for that comment. I'm just going to do a reminder. When you pick items, to speak about, you need to speak about those topics, or you can do the public comment at the end on any topic. So I just, friendly reminder.
Next speaker is Rose Higuera, and Rose has chosen items 4D, 4RR, and 4SS.
Am I getting this right?
That's Apple purchase of Chromebooks.
So Rose, if you can speak on item 4D,
Why am I missing it?
and then when you move to the next one,
Oh,
let
it's
us
this one.
know so that we can start the timer over.
Okay, so regarding 4D, I'm just curious as to why we're trying to spend money on Chromebooks and iPads when we just got out of 2 years of COVID, where just about every child in the district in the United States got a brand new electronic device. So I'm seeing like complete irresponsibility with funds that should be going towards teachers and our kids' learning and not like all of these electronics. So I'm just kind of curious as to why we're spending tons and tons of money on Apple products, Chromebooks, iPads. Where is the accountability? Is there an answer, or?
We don't answer questions.
I mean, we just spent tons and tons of money on our kids. I mean, everybody had a brand new laptop that went home. And so I'm trying to understand where the justification is for all of this unnecessary spending. That's all.
4RR.
Palmer Family Counseling.
Yeah, so reading in the agenda, I'm reading about counseling services with Palomar Family Counseling Services. I thought we were in the business of education. You guys are not psychiatrists or psychologists, and I don't think you have any business referring children to counseling on site. That is something that the parents have the right, and I'm just really like flabbergasted as to why we're introducing counseling into the school system. I don't know how many thousands of dollars you guys are spending for Palomar counseling services, but I don't think that you have a right to get into kids' social, emotional, psyche, mental issues. You guys need to stick to education. That's what our tax dollars are paying all of you guys for. So I think this is a very dangerous area that you guys are trying to get into, but I know that you guys are going to approve, because that's what you guys do. Whether it's detrimental to families and children, you guys are going to go ahead and approve it. So I'm here to stand up for families and say that you don't have any business veering into the family counseling services for our children. That's all.
Item 4SS.
Again, this is another agreement that you guys have made for counseling services with Wellness Together Incorporated. Again, why? I mean, parents, moms and dads, families, they're the ones that should decide whether or not their children go to counseling. They're the ones that can find a counselor that shares their values and their beliefs. You guys don't have any business counseling our kids. That's a very dangerous thing to do. And I'm sure a lot of families feel the same way as I do. Stick to education. That's all.
Is that our last public comment, Ann? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a first. I have a. No, I wasn't, but I'll make a motion to approve. Eleanor seconded. Sorry, I'm all wake up, guys. Anyways, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving general consent items, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 5, which is a presentation. I'm so looking forward to this. So I'll turn it over to district staff for the Special Education Task Force update. We can watch this first.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Vitale, and community. Together with Ms. Cherie Benet, Coordinator of Special Education, who is standing in for our Director of Special Education, we will be updating you on the work of our Special Education Task Force. Tonight, we will review the framework we use to guide our work, which was provided to us by Dr. Brooks from the SIP grant, which OUSD received. The history of the work around special education over the past 4 years is complex. We have examined this to create findings from our task force. We have outlined some recommendations and a plan to move forward for your consideration. Ms. Benet.
The Supporting Inclusive Practices, or SIP Blueprint for Inclusion, has 5 parts that work together to foster greater collaboration in special education with the goal of having more students with IEP successfully included in all aspects of school. This process is rooted in a continuous improvement model. The first step in the SIP model is envisioning. Key to this step is leadership, vision, and two-way communication. In 2019, Dr. Vitale launched a listening tour across the district to better understand the challenges and opportunities facing special education in our district. There was a survey to educational partners with over 325 responses and over 30 face-to-face meetings across the district.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The 2019 Envisioning Project identified key areas impacting the work in special education. These findings included the need for professional learning, recruiting, retaining, and placing paraeducators and special educators in a timely manner, and ensuring that students could access the core curriculum. In addition, there was a need for additional professional learning. The work would have continued into 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic caused the work to be put on hold. Next slide, please. In the fall of 2021 and the school year 2022, the Special Education Task Force was started. The team initially met 7 times with 2 informal meetings later in the spring. The goal of the task force was to see if the findings from 2019 had changed or adjusted in light of the global pandemic. Next slide, please. The group worked on a logic model and identified a vision, mission, and identified key actions to address the areas of need. This followed the first 2 steps in the SIP framework.
Next slide, please. The educational partners included in the task force brought many different perspectives to the work. The task force included more than 40 individuals from Oceanside, including parents, statewide experts, and neighboring district representatives. Next slide, please. As we did this work, the task force kept in mind the importance of students who are served by our district. We know that all of our students are general education students first, and that some students are entitled to special services because of their specialized needs. Across the state and the nation, an increase in students being identified for special education services has increased. In Oceanside Unified School District, the percentage of students with disabilities has also increased to 16.2% in 2020-2021 school year, from 14.8% in the 2019-2020 school year. Next slide, please. The task force was also thought about the professionals who serve students with IEPs. As our work is driven by the dedicated educators and service providers, it was important to keep in mind all employees who serve students with disabilities. These employees include classified, certificated, and administrative personnel.
Next slide, please. The task force came together to establish a vision. This vision is to ensure that all students receive the education they need to maximize their potential and have choices for a positive post-high school experience in their personal and professional college and career lives. Next slide, please. We also had a mission. The mission was to ensure that we have healthy relationships and working systems between students, staff, and caregivers in order to increase positive student outcomes for students with disabilities. Next slide, please. The task force expressed a great deal of urgency around ensuring that this work is done in a new, innovative way that will change the outcomes for our students. The task force had identified creating an action plan for behavior, academic, and social emotional supports, to be able to support the adults who educate and those that care for students with disabilities and special needs, increase the number of students with IEPs who are fully included in the general education setting with an educational benefit, and ensure that all students have plans for their lives after graduation. Next slide, please. The task force made it clear that it was important that we address the findings from 2019 in the work we did this year. It was a priority to see how things had changed over time. Each finding from 2019 was reviewed and findings were identified. Then an investment in addressing the concern was brought forward as a recommendation for your consideration as the board. The first finding was around access to the curriculum. In order to address this finding, the investment will be directed at professional learning time for paraeducators, paid training in conflict resolution and behavior management, and in transition plans. We also identified the importance of ensuring that our student success plan is clear to all of our teachers and educators, and that there is a comprehensive procedural manual available so that we can ensure a uniform and informed process. Next slide, please. The next finding was around how to enhance our human resources procedures. This included recruitment, placement, and retention of our employees serving our students with IEPs. The Human Resources Department has worked exceedingly hard to change the recruitment process and in fact has run 15 recruitments for paraeducators this year, allowing us to continuously find the highest quality employees to provide one-on-one and group supports to our students with special needs. We've also worked with colleges and universities to identify highly qualified staff to serve our students. Next slide, please. The next slide really was around time to collaborate between general educators, paraeducators, caregivers, and special education staff. We know that systemic collaboration time will allow for us to understand the needs of each of our students and provide supports to our educators in order to meet those needs. We know that what we want for our students is a direct result of the work of the adults in the system. So the investment that we are proposing for the 2022 through 2026 is dedicated, paid time for meetings and collaboration between caregivers and educators before the initial IEP, at the start of the school year, and at the midpoint during the school year, to allow to build relationships that will be outside of the IEP meeting and foster a collaborative approach. In addition to that time to collaborate, increase in moderate to severe classrooms at the start of the school year to allow for a timely placement of students who need more intense services. This will be one classroom at elementary, one classroom at middle, and a C's classroom at the high school. We believe that it's important to increase support to our families and caregivers so that they can feel confident in their partnership with us as we serve their students. There will be a caregiver consultant who will continue to build a parent ambassador program that we heard about as part of the task force, work with our task provider, and provide support to families as they may have questions that might be outside of the questions they may be willing or need to ask. We also believe that our general educators have asked for side-by-side and real-time coaching in the areas of behavior and in the area of modifications and accommodations. So we have identified specific coaching opportunities to support our general educators. All of this is around paid release time or paid time after the time, depending on what each teacher feels is in the best need of their students. And we will also make sure that we have that paid release time that we talked about before. The 14 hours annually for all of our educators, that again is paid time for them. Rostering of all students, including those classified as moderate to severe within general education while maintaining the contracted class sizes. We will be piloting this with several schools, including schools such as that have already been doing a lot of this work, as other principals were on the task force have also volunteered to be part of this pilot work. We also felt that it was really important that we start small, really learn from what we've done, and build on success. Nothing succeeds like success. Next slide, please. So this investment turns into a classified staff increase of 6 paraprofessionals, certificated staff, 6 coaches and coordinators, not 6 of each, 6 together. Professional learning around the paraprofessional, CPI, PBIS, our SST, MTSS, and the science of reading. We also want to make sure that we remember that we are talking about our paid release time that will continue to support the collaboration between our caregivers, our special educators, and our general educators. This investment will be a step in the right direction to really address those needs that students are having based on some of the challenges that they've experienced over the past 2 to 3 years, and will help them to have that successful, lifelong career in their social, professional lives. Thank you. The next steps that we really want to talk about is that we will publish our work in a document that will be able to be reviewed. We will establish benchmarks for success and targeted outcomes. We will strengthen the special education department chair's work, which is part of our partnership with our teachers organization. We will calendar 4 task force meetings a year to hold us accountable to what they've challenged us to do with your recommendation, and also to make sure that we're monitoring so that we know in a timely manner if something is not working, we can change course to ensure that our investment is well spent and targeted towards student learning. And of course, continuously getting the feedback from our staff, our caregivers, our Board of Education, and our superintendent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I believe we have public comment on this item.
I'm gonna need a translation. Okay, ¿lo digo yo primero y usted? Sí. Okay. Should I say it first and then? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Vitali. Mi nombre es Verónica García y soy una mamá del distrito. Tengo 2 niñas y una de ellas tiene necesidades especiales. Okay. Escuchar esta propuesta dada por la Special Education Task Force me da esperanzas y una nueva visión para el futuro de mi hija.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
You guys are going to tag team it? Okay, there you go. Got it.
My name is Veronica Garcia. I'm a mother that has 2 children in the district, and one of them has special needs. I heard the proposal given by the Special Education Task Force, which gives me hope and a new vision for the future of my daughter.
Si el propósito de este plan es darle mejor entrenamiento a los maestros de educación especial y educación general y para profesionales en las áreas de necesidad ya identificadas por el Task Force, es sumamente importante apoyarlo.
The purpose of this plan is to give better training to special education teachers, general education, and professionals in the areas of need that have been identified. Then this task force is extremely important to support.
Queremos que la inclusión de nuestros hijos sea significativa y bien apoyada, donde no solamente se beneficiarán nuestros hijos con necesidades especiales, sino también los niños que están en educación general porque van a aprender entre ellos.
We want the inclusion of our children to be significant and well supported, where it's not only in benefit of our children with special needs, but also for the children that are in general education because they learn from each other and about themselves.
Sobre todo, empezando nosotros como adultos, porque somos los que les damos el ejemplo y ellos verán que la educación, niños con niños de educación especial pueden ser incluidos en educación general.
Above all, starting with ourselves as adults because we are the ones giving them an example, and they will see, the children in special education will see that they can be in general education, but with support.
Si este plan es aprobado, se cambiarían tantos procedimientos que han sido implementados desde el empiezo de la educación general en 1975. Los tiempos han cambiado, la educación ha evolucionado y también es tiempo que nosotros cambiemos. Ahora es el año 2022.
If this plan is approved, so many procedures would change that have been implemented since special education was started in 1975. Times have changed and education has evolved, as well as special education. There are changes now that we're in 2022. We should start now.
También necesitamos transparencia en este proceso, porque no va a ser fácil, pero si se detectan los problemas a temprano, se podrán hacer el cambio para que sea un éxito.
We also need transparency in this process because it's not going to be easy, but if anything is detected in the beginning, it will be able to be seen and changed so that it is successful.
Siempre se dice también en las IEP meetings que tu hijo no completa las metas, pero todo es una cadena. Si no tenemos el apoyo para los maestros, para profesionales, ¿cómo esperamos que nuestros hijos completen sus metas? El futuro de nuestros hijos está en sus manos. Soñamos que nuestros hijos sean integrados a una comunidad y también lo queremos en la escuela. Así que ellos se convertirán en personas con propósito para nuestra sociedad.
It's always said in IEP meetings that your child has not completed their goals, but this is all a chain because we don't have the support for the teachers and for the professionals that we hope that our children would achieve. The future of our children is in your hands. We dream about our children becoming integrated into our society and our community, and also we want this in our schools. And that way they will become people with purpose for our society.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I'll open it up for board discussion or questions for Dr. Levy.
I have a question. Okay. I have a question regarding the military involvement. As we know, the Department of Defense has declared Oceanside Unified as their location to send special needs military dependents. Since we're west of the Mississippi, we are the ones that receive those special needs students. Are they involved with the study in terms of being able to help finance the study, the pilot?
I'm not sure at this time that they're continuing with the practice of sending all students with special needs to Oceanside. I think that they have a variety of places they do, including Oceanside, because we do have an outstanding program. As part of the task force, we did not have military families, but we will take that recommendation as we move forward as an area that we can look into for an improvement. Thank you.
Thank Thank you.
My question again just comes from my lens as a teacher. I know that when you move from the model of having students that are out of the classroom to having kids that are more diverse, neurodiverse, behaviorally diverse in your classroom, if you haven't practiced that, if that's not your skill set, if you haven't trained on that in years, that can be hard. And it isn't always the best result for students. I loved what Mrs. Garcia just brought up, that the inclusion has to be significant. I think that's such a great way to put it. Can you tell me more about number 4, the coaching lead by teachers who are education specialists? Like how does that functionally work a little bit more? Because I think that piece is really important for teachers to get something out of.
We absolutely agree. So on the task force, we had quite a few teachers, both general educators and special educators. And one of the things that we talked about was the importance of having someone who has the expertise, so someone with a special education credential, an educational specialist, to do real-time, side-by-side support so that somebody can see what it really looks like. In addition to that, we feel that it's important as well to have video opportunities for people to see it in a video, but then also have someone watch you teach it and say, oh, this is what can happen. I think that that's going to be really important. So we've actually designated there will be one person, a teacher, a TOSA, who will be assigned to do that work. We'll be tracking who they work with, and especially those sites where we're looking at that full inclusion model, so that they will be prioritized at those sites who are piloting to see what it looks like so that we can provide those supports. In addition to that, really key to this will be that pre-meeting in the beginning of the school year where there's designated time for the educational specialist and the general educator to sit down and talk about the students. We know that over time, when students move from grade to grade, they do change, but we do find that there are successful practices and opportunities and ways to work with students that can be shared and discussed so that we're not starting over every year. We know our ed specialists stay with our students for many years. Our principals and APs stay with them for many years. But sometimes what we feel like that gap is when the child moves from one grade level or one school to the other, not just a 30-day intake, but really that informal side-by-side. You know, when I talk to this student, if I say their name, so for an example of a student who might be having attention challenges, if I say, please pick up the book, Mason, the child who only heard Mason didn't hear all ahead. A slight change might be, Mason, get the child's attention, pick up the book. You'll have a very different experience with that. So we want to be able to provide those kinds of examples and side-by-side observations in a targeted way. So that's what we're thinking about.
I'm not sure about the timing of those meetings, but as a suggestion, we just kind of started this exactly at our sites too. And in our experience, it's been really good to have the teachers with the kids for a couple of weeks first, so it's not preemptively striking, and they get their own views, and then you kind of bring that ideas together.
Okay. Student surveys were adapted to ensure they were appropriate for the grade level span. There were significantly more students and staff participating in the window as compared to previous years. Key findings based on the educational partner data included a desire for a variety of elective courses, tutoring to support struggling students, release days for teachers to plan and collaborate, as well as social emotional learning supports. Currently, OUSD is offering elective courses at the secondary level, support for struggling students in social emotional learning, and support for all students. Staff were able to engage in professional learning on the 3 early release days and were able to have additional collaboration days as substitutes were available. Next slide. OUSD has long-standing relationships with community partners who serve our students. Transformational Consulting, PASS AmeriCorps, and Wellness Together primarily serve our secondary students, where Palomar Family Counseling and Care Solace can provide services for all students. Next slide, please. The following slides illustrate the goals and action items and data from the 21-22 LCAP. This information was reviewed by the LCAP committee and guided their recommendations for the 22-23 school year. Goal 1 is academic achievement. Action item 1.2 prioritized the recommendation for the addition of full-time assistant principals, counselor, and 2 intervention teachers at all elementary school sites. The additional staff provided early intervention for our youngest scholars during the 21-22 school year. Next slide.
From our data collection and in looking at our caseload workload, the recommendation to reduce class size was brought forward. Staff ratios are a negotiated item and therefore not directly within the scope or authority for recommendation by the LCAP committee. However, based on past negotiations, OUSD has been able to lower class size ratios a bit over time. This table outlines the student-to-teacher ratio by grade span. Next slide. And I'm sorry, this is over a 5-year period. So we would see that the class sizes have decreased at all grade levels from the 18-19 school year. Next slide, please. We also, I'm sorry, back up one. I'm sorry, I lost place. Thank you. We also wanted to show the actual enrollment from June of 2022. So while we see the actual enrollment and the staffing ratios in all grade spans except for TK, we have had an average, median, and mode that is below the negotiated level. Next slide, please. The following table illustrates the caseload ratios for educational specialists by grade span, as well as the ratios for paraprofessionals. In 21-22, a mild mod educational specialist and a paraprofessional would support 24 students. A mod to severe educational specialist and 2 paraprofessionals would support 24 students. We know that the number of students with IEP changes throughout the school year and that our students and staff need supports, as we've outlined in the task force. Our special education task force worked on this and thought about how to ensure that there is room for new students entering the program, thus the addition of the 3 additional classes for moderate to severe students and C students at the 3 different levels. Ms. Bell?
Currently, additional support for acceleration of learning has been provided through the use of intervention teachers. In elementary, they support our students by strengthening their foundational skills in reading and math. This work includes phonics instruction and number sense. In secondary, intervention teachers provide support for our multilingual learners to access core curriculum. Next slide. Over the past 5 years, OUSD has made a concerted effort to update core curriculum and provide meaningful supplemental curriculum aligned to the adopted core materials. The following chart depicts the core and supplemental curriculum for elementary, middle, and high school. Notice that we have an elementary reading program, and we will have new history social science programs, K-12, and a new English ELD program in grades 6 through 12. Next slide. Under Goal 1, our final action area is 1.3. Actions include students in grades K through 8 completing the iReady diagnostic 3 times annually, 9th through 12th graders completing the STAR assessment 3 times a year, and this action also includes the site based on Title I allocations and personnel to support professional development to improve academic achievement. We will now show you some data for elementary and secondary students. The following slide illustrates the academic growth of our kindergarten through 8th grade students in overall reading and math. In iReady, the red band represents the students who are 2 or more grade levels below. The yellow band represents the students who are 1 grade level below, and the green band represents the students who are on grade level or above. iReady is directly aligned to the California state standards for reading and math. On the fall diagnostic, 26% of the students were considered on or above level in reading as measured by the California state standards and the iReady assessment. In the spring, 46% were considered on or above grade level. This is an increase of 20%. In math, the growth increased from 14% on or above grade level in the fall to 39% in the spring as measured by the California State Standards and the iReady assessment. This constitutes a 25% overall growth for students. Next slide, please. On the far right of the slide, you will see a grid with the percent increase in reading scores for students in grades K through 5. Again, this compares the fall to the spring test. Notice all the grade levels show an overall improvement in scores. This growth in the early grades may be attributed to our intervention teachers who focus their efforts on our youngest learners and the phonics instruction of the science of reading. Additionally, the iReady program itself has an instructional component designed to accelerate and target the learning needs of each student. Next slide, please. This same comparison is now being shown for math in grades K through 5. Again, there is an improvement in the overall percent of students at or above grade level. This improvement amounts to a 30 to 37% increase. Next slide. This chart shows the reading scores in middle school, as noted by the green bands comparing the fall to spring test. Students in grades 6 through 8 showed an overall average improvement in reading scores. Many of our middle schools have used the iReady instructional components for targeted learning and have seen positive results. Next slide, please. This chart shows the math scores in middle school, as noted by the green bands, comparing the fall to spring tests. Students in grades 6 through 8 showed an overall average improvement in math scores. Each principal and their instructional team have examined these data points and are using them to plan next steps for the coming school year. Next slide, please. Thank you. The data points we just shared with you are directly aligned to supporting our multilingual learners, also known as English learners. As a result of all of our efforts, we have had 372 multilingual learners reclassify as English proficient in the 21-22 school year. Next slide, please. Goal 2 promotes safe learning environment for students. The actions described in Goal 2 provide for campus safety, cleanliness, staffing for social and emotional learning, such as our elementary counselors, and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department. This work is essential for students to feel safe and improve mental health. Next slide, please. Goal 3 is focused on offering meaningful participation and engagement with our families. Areas to highlight include the connections that school community advisors are able to make with families and the opportunities such as DPAC and DLAC, which are facilitated by our TOSAs and district staff. This year, we have also added community school coordinators at 4 of our school sites. The community school coordinators have been able to provide direct services to the students and families where they are housed: Jefferson, Laurel, Libby, and Mission. Next slide, please. During the 21-22 school year, the LCAP committee convened 8 times to analyze the academic and SEL data based on the LCAP metrics. They also revised educational partner surveys to ensure relevant data was captured and then analyzed the priorities of the students, staff, and families. Based on the committee's analysis, it was determined that OUSD's current actions are in alignment with educational partner priorities, and the recommendation is to stay the course with continued improvement.
Next slide, please. We know that funding is limited and that one-time monies can change our work. Knowing this, the LCAP committee wanted to make recommendations about how to spend funds to support students should additional monies become available. This slide illustrates the recommendations from the LCAP committee. Several things recommended will be implemented in the 22-23 school year based on other funding becoming available. This includes an increase in our duty supervisors at the elementary level. Another recommendation that we will be able to do is to grow our community schools, which we'll be using grant funds that we received to increase to 2 sites. We will also be able to continue to collaborate with the Special Education Task Force, as you heard earlier this evening, to provide those resources for our students with IEPs, and also to think about the way that we can have a character development program that will be aligned and administered by our elementary counselors to ensure that their lessons are enhanced with a strong academic approach and also character development. We will also make sure that we continue to support the adults who serve our students to be able to provide the best quality education to all of our students. Next slide, please. The next set of slides is an overview of our budget in the 22-23 school year. Next slide. The total revenue projected for Ocean Unified School District is about $258 million. Of that, around $200 million is in local control funding formula. This is the base allocations that we receive for all students. In addition to that, we have $26 million in other state funds, $16 million in local funds, and around $19 million in federal funds. Of this money, we are making sure that we are addressing the needs of our high priority students, our foster youth, our English learners or multilingual learners, and low-income students. Next slide, please. The following chart depicts the LCAP expenditures, and all funding has been allocated to support the actions and services outlined in the LCAP. Next slide. This chart compares what the Oceanside Unified School District budgeted last year in the LCAP for actions and services that contribute to increasing or improving services for high-need students with what was actually spent. This funding is our supplemental and concentration funding for 21-22. The coming year, we estimate around $35 million to support increased or improved services for students who are foster youth, English learner, and low-income students. Next slide, please. We want to thank everyone for their support, for the faith that you have in our educators, and to be able to move forward with our LCAP in its second year of a 3-year cycle. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. Do we have public comment on this? Nope. Okay. Do we have questions? Go ahead.
I just have a comment. I think it's phenomenal that we can move 37%, 25% in terms of assessment, and that's remarkable, definitely. And also the report was excellent. But this kind of information just makes me stand tall and proud. Congratulations, and thank you to all the people who are involved with this, teachers, administrators. You've done a phenomenal job this year. Thank you so much for all you do.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I know a lot of work and time went into putting this together. So I just have a couple of things that I wanted to ask about or bring up. The first one is on page 8 of the report, the supplement to annual update. There's a description of how, this is what the form is requiring us to say, a description of how the LEA used the plans to use the additional concentration grant add-on funding it received to increase the number of staff and provide direct services to students on school campuses with an enrollment of low-income English learners, foster youth that is greater than 55%. So we get about $35 million extra funding for that. I know that we have traditionally talked about things that we're doing at every school site in that space. I would like our form to be more specific about how we're serving those school sites that are identified as greater need and that ever in that funding in our second reading, I guess, of our LCAP. And if you have anything to comment, you're welcome to.
Yes, so in listening to that section, what we really are looking at with the LCFF funding over the past 10 years that we've had it, school districts that fall below the 55% and so therefore only maybe have supplemental but not concentration, they need to specifically outline it for those groups. In a district, so a district that would be neighboring in, let's say, a San Diego, another district. In our district, because we're looking at our unduplicated pupil count, is around 68%, in some counts a little bit higher, almost 70%. we can actually apply our supplemental and concentration grant money, principally directed to all of our school sites, because we do know that we have high concentrations in all of our schools. I believe all of our schools are now over 42%. All of our schools are over 42% of students who would be identified as unduplicated. Now, we do have some schools that are around 80 or 90%, hence we've been able to achieve our community schools. So we have 6 schools that are over 80% who are identified as those students who are UPP or universal. So we can definitely look at that, but it is allowable by law to be applying it across the district in a district like our size.
Yeah, I think it's more of a philosophical question. When you're talking about 40% versus 80% of a school site that is identified as of higher need, I think that for me, that's what it's asking you to identify. So if we could think about that, I don't know how you would revise it for what we've done, but I'm just kind of putting a flag in that.
Thank you. We'll reflect on that.
But legally, we are in compliance with, I guess, Shirley Weber's law bill that said we had to designate.
Legally, we are in compliance, and in speaking to our county office education reviewer, Ms. Spradlin, actually this last week, she said we did a very thorough job and felt that that our LCAP was quite good this year.
Thank you.
So the second part would be the parents, that both the parent and teacher survey identified tutoring to support struggling students as a top priority. I think you're right. I think you showed some really great progress with our elementary schools, which is fantastic. Some good progress at middle school, and we didn't see a ton of similar progress on the high school level. But the middle and high school don't have that much intensive tutoring like the elementary schools do. We also saw in those in that data that we had a lot of kids moved. It looked like to me, and we haven't seen this data for long, so I'm just going to go from what I saw. We had kids that moved from the middle yellow band to the green band. That was a big jump. What we didn't see as much of a big jump was the red band moving out.
In order to see that, the red band gets smaller. So it's hard to see on this slide. It's not the best example. So
yeah, I can't see the numbers underneath it.
Sorry, I didn't. When it projects, it doesn't project well. But what you want to see is you want the green to get bigger and the red to get smaller, because that means your yellow is bigger. So if we go back one more, please.
I was more looking at the middle school.
Yeah,
You can see the number underneath it.
You can see the number, yeah.
Can you go to the middle school one? It's like 2 slides from that.
That's probably more clear.
Yeah.
So if you look,
so we do see some drops for sure, but what I'm thinking and what I'm expressing is that a bigger red band indicates that we have kids that are further behind in those areas, and that would be the kids that would benefit the most from that really intensive tutoring. So if we can bring forward options at the next meeting that include intensive tutoring, I know that comes in, something else has to go out, but it seems like there is a need with even after we reduce 50% to 41%, there's still a big number of students that are below, well below. So, and then the last part was the family engagement. Our third goal, super important. We came back from COVID this year to in-person, slowly through the year, gradually to keep everybody safe, which I think is phenomenal. I think it was well done. But we didn't see huge improvements from the year where we were completely virtual to the year that we were in person. And that concerns me and makes me think that we should be doing something different or looking at doing something different. So I would just like to hear at our next board meeting, what is our plan to actually get the engagement up at all the sites? When we look at the different sites, the engagement is very different when you talk about coming to principal chat meetings or something like that. What kind of district resources can we help our school sites to bring families onto campus, to bring families into those meetings? Because we know that the students do better when they see their parents engaged with the learning too. So that's
Thank you. We will.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to that LCAP committee. I believe with Raquel also, she's also on the LCAP committee, but I've been a parent and was on this LCAP committee 6 years ago. And so it's been 6 years. So I really watched our process refine and how the stakeholders work together. So I really appreciate everybody's time doing this to come up with this because it's not fun. We look at a lot of data, have a lot of conversations, and then because we have a limited amount of revenue coming in, spending it as prudently as possible. So I really appreciate everybody that was on that committee. Lots of work.
I have a question. Sorry, Mercedes. Sorry, you know me, last minute things come into my head. One of the concerns that we had was the students that are not coming in. There's no, like, the butt in the seat that we talk about, like the students that are not there. So is it possible, because I know that like TC does a lot to go knocking on the doors and everything that happens with that. Is there a way that we can increase that contract so that we can get some more bodies in that group to be able to continue to grow that process so that we can have more students, the follow through happen with the students that are not coming into school, and for whatever reason the absentee numbers go down? Because I know that some of our school sites had students that were out 100 and something days, consecutively. And so having that happen, is there a way that we can make that happen and focus on that area? And then what is the accountability with that too, for the accountability to happen with that in the process of at each school site to be able to make sure that those things happen and that those things are happening so that the contact is happening with the student, and the accountability of the parent too, to make sure that the student is coming to school. So what kind of accountability do we have to the parent themselves to be able to make sure that the student is here, and if there's a need or something that needs to happen on our part to be able to give them some kind of support, then what is that and how do we help them?
Thank you. We'll definitely look into that. We did examine the data around attendance, and we'll consider how we can make sure that we continue to enhance the outreach efforts that we have through TC and our partners. So we'll definitely look into that for next time.
Perfect. Thank you.
No, we only do public comment, but you can pull a public comment card and make a comment at the end, or see us later. All right, moving on to our next item, item 7C, which is approval of the portrait of a graduate. We're going to do a staff presentation. Board members, you guys can ask questions. Then we have 5 public comments, and then we'll go from there. We're going to do a quick 5-minute break, biology break. Sorry about that, Ms. Collis.
Sorry.
We have 6 public comments, too. Thank you for setting the timer. Presentation, questions, and comments. That's right.
Ready? Do you need more space? Go ahead.
All right, I'm waiting for my board colleagues. All right, there we got Eleanor. Eric, we got it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get back started. Thank you for the break. Moving on. Item 7C, we have a presentation on the portrait of a graduate, and I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you. Good evening. It's me again with Ms. Teresa Collis, coordinator of CTE, and we're excited to share with you the culmination of 6 months of work on our portrait of a graduate, adult, and system. Next slide, please. The portrait work was started to ensure that OUSD's vision of education incorporates the best thinking we have about the challenges and opportunities facing our young people for a future that is unknown. We also wanted to be sure that we included a variety of educational partners in our work. And finally, we knew that in order for the portrait of a graduate to be successful, we must also develop a portrait of an adult and a system. Next slide, please. As we look at these cell phones, the first of which was created in 1983, back then, who would have thought that in just under 40 years, this device would change everything about how we work, communicate, and live? In thinking about the next 25 years, how might things change again? And what skills, knowledge, and attitudes do we need to meet the future? Next slide, please. Here are 3 quotes about the future. The future has always been important. Abraham Lincoln said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And others have said that education is an investment in the future, and still others have said that it is the foundation of the future. Our portraits are OUSD's way of ensuring that our educational investments pays off in the future success of our students, staff, and community.
The portraits are a North Star of our work. They are future-oriented and equitable. The heart of students is addressed through an emotionally intelligent approach to learning. The portraits were locally developed with staff, students, and community, and are unique to Oceanside. Next slide, please. The model we followed was that we would have 3 portraits that all work in tandem to support excellence in education. The 3 parts are the graduate, adult, and system portrait. Each part supports the other to ensure the entire system is aligned to work to support students. Next slide, please. To understand the future, Oceanside Unified brought together people living and working in Oceanside, including leaders from business, healthcare, service organizations, government education, elected officials, caregivers, and students. These leaders speak multiple languages and have different backgrounds, age, and life experiences. Together, this group of dedicated people thought deeply about what the future may hold, how students will need to be prepared for that future, and what our educational system can do to evolve into a successful future. The students are the reason for all the work we do. Therefore, we started by listening to their ideas. Secondary students from across the district representing multiple languages, cultures, identities, interests, and academic focus came together to learn more about the possible futures they might encounter and how to share their insights into what they wanted to learn to be ready for the future. To understand the future, Oceanside Unified brought together people living and working in Oceanside. These leaders spoke the multiple languages that we spoke about, and this group of dedicated people thought deeply about the future and what it holds. We had 960 plus hours on 6 different meeting occasions. Next slide, please. It was very important for us to gather the perspective of the adults living in Oceanside. We know that our community is rich with experiences and leadership. In order to gather a wide variety of input, we administered a survey to the community that had 808 respondents. This input was used to guide the work of the portraits.
Next slide, please. The vision for this work really incorporates the graduates, the adults, and the system. We want our graduates to have the education they need to maximize their potential and have choices for positive experience in their personal and professional lives, prepared to meet both known and unknown challenges in the future. In order for this to happen, the adults in Oceanside must be masters of their profession, excellent educators, caring, open-minded, ready to adapt, and future-oriented. We know that to support the adults who care and support students, the system must support our employees and foster family and community partnerships, a globally connected, inclusive, and equitable environment, a future-oriented approach, and environmental sustainability.
The graduate portrait has 5 areas: positive self-identity and agency, multicultural communicator, equitable global change agent, responsible digital citizen, and adaptable and future-ready adult. Our adult portrait, there are 7 key areas. These are professional mastery, growth-oriented change agents, compassionate and caring, effective communicator, model equity and inclusivity, open-minded and flexible, and future and globally oriented. And in order for the adults and students to be successful, our system must be aligned to do that work. The system portrait has 7 parts that invest in the future. These parts are student-centered instructional vision, proactive future-oriented approach, emotionally intelligent culture, inclusive and equitable, family, community, and district partnerships, environmental sustainability, and global connectedness.
Each of these portraits fit together to create a whole. This vision provides our work, guides our work as we put students first and develop a system that is adaptable, accountable, inclusive, globally connected, innovative, and effective in preparing our students for a successful life and to be the future leaders here in Oceanside. Next slide, please. The next steps that were with the Board of Education's direction, we will publish a document that outlines in greater detail each of the areas, what they mean, and how we might implement these in our work moving forward. We plan to build a collaborative groups to create this plan that will be able to have a vision realized and set forth the work. We will work to make the portraits a reality, and we will monitor and adjust our work as we move forward. This work is essential to ensure that our students are prepared to meet a future that we know is uncertain, one that they will be facing challenges that we have not yet faced, and one that they will need to take the lead in. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any board questions? Yeah. No. If you have questions, you can ask them, and then we'll do public comment.
I don't have any questions, but
Then we'll save that till after public comment.
you do public comments?
Yeah, we'll do public comment then. All right, so we have 6 public comments.
Do you want me to call them all at one time?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 6, and you'll come in this order. Susan Custer, Mike Richardson, Kristen Stewart, Rose Higuera, Allison Mino, and Emily Wichman. Susan Custer.
Good evening. I'd like to, can you hear me? Is my coming through the mic? Okay. I'd like to start by reading from the draft, which is all I had available, of the graduate portrait. A strong globe, to be connected strong globally and feel connected with other global communities. Understand, acknowledge, appreciate, and value the diverse culture, history, local, state, national, and world, and a responsibility to take care of communities. That's just briefly what's in the draft. Is this what we need for our students to compete in a global economy? Some of it is good, but we need to compete. We need the kids to compete at the levels that all other countries are competing at, and we need to be outperforming those countries. From the U.S. Education Ranking, which was updated on April 13th, 2022, the U.S. is the U.S. competitive advantage is falling behind. The 15-year-old students around the world were given a test by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The U.S. placed 11 out of 79 countries in science, but in math, it did much worse at 30 out of 79 countries. The average math score in the U.S. was 478, and the average math score worldwide was 489. So we are behind the top 5 Asian countries of Singapore, Morocco, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Japan. and there are no signs of improvement. These scores mean that U.S. students may not be prepared to take high-paying computer and engineering jobs, which often go to foreign workers. Many companies simply outsource their tech jobs overseas because they can't find the workers here. And the IMD World Competitiveness Center reports that the U.S. is ranked 10th in the 2020 competitiveness report. After ranking first in 2018, the U.S. fell to the third spot in 2019 and tumbled 7 more points in 2020. So just from 18 to 2020, we've gone from first to 10th. So I'd like to propose what possibly would be a portrait for our graduates, that it include that at least 80% of graduates perform at or above grade level in both math and language. Currently, only 46% of Oceanside High School.
Thank you for your public comment. Your 3 minutes is up.
Well, I'm not sure what to say because this is the first I've seen it. We didn't have a chance. I've been to the district office twice and tried to get some information about this proposal. I saw drafts that talked about global, and you mentioned tonight, global oriented. I've seen a lot of talk about borderless societies. One of the, I think it was Eric tonight mentioned and disparagingly about the imaginary border. I think the whole, and I looked at the group, I tried to get a list of the people on this committee, and just looking at their titles tells us everything. You know, you had a left-wing mayor of Oceanside and a left-wing assembly member. You had a whole bevy of woke Marxist liberals who are thinking only about the global world and forget about the United States of America. I say it's all hogwash. We need to go back to the basics. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker.
Kristen Stewart.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I am a resident of Oceanside. I am the mother of 2 children who went through school here. I am a retired elementary school teacher, and at this time in my life, I'm doing what I can do to give back by being a member of the Assistance League of North Coast, who does a whole lot of stuff for your kids, and we're very happy to do that. I felt like I really had a gift when I was invited to the coalition, and the gift came from hearing what we want to do for our children for the future. And I wanted to share with you that I really enjoyed going through the process with the coalition. It gave me time to think inside myself, outside the box, and to think in terms of what our kids are going to need in another 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I hate to think that we won't spend time looking to the future, because that's where we're all going to be, and we really need to think hard and fast about that. So thank you for the opportunity to go through that process, and I learned a lot, shared a lot, and feel really good about the way life is going here. So thank you.
So for the portrait of a graduate, I have a friend of mine that went to Hawaii for a graduation, a high school graduation, and there were 18 valedictorians, and not one of them was able to give a speech because We are trying to equalize everyone so that everybody is equal. There's no overachievers or underachievers. We're trying to take away critical thinking from kids. We are forcing all of these ideologies, such as critical race theory, where we pit one child's race against another. We're bringing in these counseling, these clinics into our schools, where we're forcing shots, COVID shots, where we're trying to take parents' rights away. I'm really, as a parent, I am very concerned the direction that we are heading in. It seems like the board here is, you guys aren't leaders. You guys have your own agenda. You are not standing up for the kids. You are not listening to us parents. We show up month after month after month, and you guys just keep approving all of these incredibly divisive and dangerous ideologies on our kids. And so I would like to encourage the parents and the families and the people of Oceanside. There are 3 seats coming up for school board trustees. I would love for people of integrity and common sense to run for these positions. There's 3 seats available, and these seats are very powerful because you actually decide the curriculum, you decide the finances, you can actually have an opportunity to protect kids, you have the authority to fire the superintendent. So I think that's what we need to do. There are 3 mama bears in Pittsburgh, and I love that they are bringing a lawsuit against the school board, and they are holding them accountable for teaching gender to their children, to their first graders, and they're fed up. They're absolutely fed up, and they're holding them all accountable. So I don't know, maybe that's what we need to do for Andy, Mercedes, Todd, Eric, Stacy, Julie, Raquel, Mike, Eleanor, Ann, Leilani, Dr. Jordy, you head up the social emotional learning, the diversity, all of this incredibly trashy stuff for our kids that we don't want. Donald, I mean, you're all, complacency shows that, and silence shows that you're compliant. And so that means that you're all behind it. You're all aggressively pushing that on our children, and we're not okay with that. So maybe we do have to file a lawsuit and hold each one of you accountable for punitive damages and just pick you guys off one by one and start with a whole new board, whole new superintendent. Thank you.
Your time is up.
Allison Mino.
Am I up yet? Or I don't see my time.
There you go.
Here we go. Hello, everyone. I come here as a mother of 2 young children in OUSD. I was in my little elementary bubble. I don't want to get emotional here, but I was. And in the course of, excuse me, the last 2.5 years, I've unfortunately seen just how bad public schools have taken a turn. And I'll be honest, I'm scared for the future of our students and families here in our community. The changes seem to be coming very quickly with little to no community input, and all should know, I mean, after all, I should know, I get 24-hour notices for surveys, and how about allowing families to view new textbooks that came into the district and giving us less than 24-hour notice? But luckily I made it in there, and I did see, and not to my surprise, you all are trying to bring in Cell and all this other garbage, which is really very tragic. I just, about this portrait of a graduate, it's crap. It really is. It's progressive as it can get. It has no place here. I looked at the website and you know, here's a quote. Our vision is an equitable world in which everyone has the agency to create their future. Prospect Studio specializes in strategic foresight and equity-centered design to reimagine and reinvent education. I looked at the website further and was shocked by just how progressive this consulting company is. Fiona, the founder of this company, is coming from NorCal, where their structures and ways are very politically driven. On the website, they speak of social injustice and go as far as speaking of activism in the streets for an organization that has rioted, looted, and brought violence to our country's streets. Oceanside's community is not like that. We are Southern California, chill, lax, skate, surf, ride, bikes, be with their families and friends. Our schools continue to lack greater academic education by bringing this progressive nonsense. Really, truly disappointing and sad. I mean, come on, you guys, get with it. Like, I know. And so just as our friend here said just before me, we're taking you all out one by one. And hey, maybe myself, Eric Joyce, I'm in your district. Thank you.
All right, next speaker.
Emily Wichman.
We'll share.
Okay, let me first identify a graduate going through this school district from the 2021 California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress in English Language and Literacy. Latino students not economically disadvantaged at Oceanside High School, only 46% of the students met or exceeded state standards for EL and literacy. In math, Latino students not economically disadvantaged at Oceanside High School, only 24% of the students met or exceeded state standards for math. At El Camino, English Language and Literacy and math were about 10% higher. I attended the CTE showcase a couple of weeks ago, and I also went to the presentation display of a portrait of a graduate. I was impressed with the hours spent by the Community Input Coalition and community involvement. I contacted a Rotary, a nonprofit, a grassroots organization, the North County African American Association. Unfortunately, the people that I contacted had no idea what I was talking about and were not aware of this coalition. And after reviewing the information, I realized that community was the school district with several community people. Considering best practices, Oceanside administrators needed to inform and insist the approach using community and school district staff be differentiated and respecting the word community as it relates to the many citizens of Oceanside. If you look at the Oceanside Vision Promise draft, all I have is drafts in the draft core values, the graduate portrait, and then look below at elements. And number 1, equitable global change agent. Bullet number 1 has a strong global orientation and feels connected with other global communities in a borderless society. Bullet 2 mentions global community. Bullet 4 mentions global environment. Please look at the community vision process results. I didn't see the results up here, but you have them in front of you. Results from graduate or students, there were 10 of them, 10 elements. And number 10 being the least important, which students chose the number 10 was global change agent. Results from the adult survey, there were 8 elements, 8 being the least important, which the adults chose number 8, future and global orientation. Results from the system, there were 9 elements. Number 8 was the next to the least important, which the system chose number 8, global connectedness. How relevant is Prospect Studio, Dr. Hovenden's The Portrait of a Graduate, when it contradicts the survey results? The community vision process results tell me that the community does not want the global change agents yet. Future and global orientation is not what is needed now and for the next 12 years. And global connectedness can be achieved in the future. But first of all, our graduates have to be competent, able to compete, excel in their endeavors, and prosper. I ask you that you propose your vote for a portrait of a graduate until the survey results are
Thank you for your public comment, Emily.
Decision. Okay, thank you.
All right, board discussion. Eleanor?
I'm going to ask everyone just for a second, just close your eyes, and think about when you were in first grade, second grade. Think about what did you want to be when you grow up? Okay. Just think about that. And now think, Did you grow up to be that job? If you did, you're very blessed. I know I wanted to be a teacher, so I'm very, very fortunate. Now, think about how things have changed. You know, to be a teacher today, you have to be computer literate. You have to be able to be socially, emotionally involved with your students. You know, because you need to be able to teach them.
This is for discussion, so.
And think about how much support I need you to think, not talk. Sir? All right? Right. My bottom line is this. Did you, growing up, did you have the agencies? Did you have the support and the means to be what you wanted to be? Did you have to go beyond? Was it your family? Was it the community? Was it the school that enabled you to be the person you are today? Well, this is what we're moving to. Someone is saying yes. Thank you. This is what we're moving to towards Oceanside. You know, I keep hearing about how low our test scores are. Exactly, we are doing something about it. And the portrait of a graduate.
Hey, excuse me, this is board discussion. So if you're in the audience, I need you to stop being disruptive.
Okay. Portrait of a graduate is about a student, the ideal student. You know, Plato talks about the ideal chair that exists. We want to have the ideal student that exists. Portrait of a graduate, it's not about color. It's not about race. It's not about ethnicity or creed or belief system. It is about our students being successful in the future, our students being competitive with any other student in the state, in the nation, or in the world. Studies show that, you know, the opportunity for jobs, you keep talking about outsourcing. Well, the opportunity for employment for our youth is going to be with probably a multinational corporation, which means they have to have those skills, those talents, that type of cognition that they can deal with people all over the world. And this is what we want for our students.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to either be quiet or leave. Real easy. You make the decision.
All right, so.
Okay, let me continue on. Okay. Portrait of a Graduate is about our scholars' cognition, about them being creative, being critical thinkers. It's about collaborating within the school and collaborating in the community. It's about having personal and interpersonal skills. And one of the things I always tell my niece, because it's one of the things that we used to always hear, that by the year 2050, you know, we're going to be, you may be living on Mars. You know, you think about that. How are we going to adapt, change? You know, we talk about we want to be number one, and we want our students to have these skills just to live in the USA and to be able to thrive, not survive, thrive worldwide. And now, you know, if you listen to the news, they're talking about interplanetary travel. And if you look at, quote unquote, the recent billionaires, you know, there's a reason why they're going out into space. It's not for the view. Okay.
Thank you.
We need our students to be prepared to thrive in the future. Simple as that. And that's what it's all about. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Eleanor.
Eleanor, I love some of the work that came out of this. The idea that future ready adult is a focus is so That's so great. There's so much packed into that, that all the problem solving, all the things that it takes to be ready for the future of things that we don't know are coming, that our students don't know are coming. It's so powerful. Recognizing that everyone is different, and that equity means that each person gets what they need to thrive. I love that our students identified with that and are going to take that with them beyond. So I'd like to move for approval.
I'll second. See, no, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 7C, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 7D. Is that you, Mercy? Dr. Levy?
Good evening, Board. Yes, we would like to have you accept a grant of $325,000 for Universal Pre-K. This is an opportunity to invest in our youngest learners, to collaborate with our providers across Oceanside, both publicly funded and privately funded, to ensure that our youngest learners are receiving the supports they need to be ready for school and to be future-ready adults. Your acceptance of this and the consideration of the plan will allow us to have this money and move forward.
Yes, universal pre-K. I move for approval.
I'll second.
First and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 7D, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 8, business. I'm going to open the public hearing for our proposed 2022-23 preliminary budget adoption at 8:13 p.m. There's one public comment, I believe.
Am I good? All right. Hey, good evening, Dr. Telly, board trustees, staff, and everyone here, parents. Thank you for coming out here. And first off, I'd like to start off, from my worldview to y'all's worldview. It's oftentimes we clash, we collide. But I would like to start this off with congratulating the everyone in the district, mainly the students for the class of 2022. Graduating high school is a huge accomplishment for them, and I'm very proud of all of them. At my church, I work with quite a few high school students who just graduated. They were all like they're all super excited and just ready to conquer the world. So I could be more happy for them. For this budget going forward, with the tragic events of the Uvalde shootings, I want to emphasize that school security is the safety and security of the students is the utmost importance. I have 2 kids who go to school. They go at North Terrace and Oceanside. Oceanside High, go Pirates! And I just want to emphasize it. There are a lot of devices that are pretty reasonable financially. One is this night lock door, and I can give this to any of you guys. It's relatively inexpensive. I believe it works. I watched a lot of videos on it, and I'm kind of a fan. I'm not a salesman. I don't have any stock in this. The only thing I invest is what's important to me, and that's my children. That's why I'm here, speaking up for them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more public comment, I will close the public hearing at 8:15 p.m. and I will turn it over to district staff for item 8B, the first reading of the proposed. What was that? I think so. Did you fill out a public comment card? My mic is out. Did you fill out a public comment card? This is for the public hearing.
Ma'am, you have to fill out
Pardon me?
Fill out a card at the back, and there'll be a time a little bit later in the meeting when you can, back in the back, they'll help you with the card. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item 8B, the first reading of the proposed 2022-23 preliminary budget. I'll turn it over to Dr. Norman.
Thank you, Dr. Begin. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and to present the proposed preliminary budget report. We're going to be going over the economic background, Proposition 98, increases to the LCFF, assumptions for the proposed budget, reviewing the proposed budget with revenue and expenditures, general fund and unrestricted and combined, components of the ending fund balance, the multi-year projection, and next steps. First, for the economic background, it's facing significant challenges, as we all know. Many factors pose significant risk to the economy, the state budget, and the long-term forecast. We have inflation and fears of prolonged inflation, supply chain issues, volatility in the stock market, and the Ukraine-Russia war and potential surges in COVID-19 cases may all worsen economic conditions. Prop 98 is how we fund our schools. It was passed by voters as an amendment to the California Constitution in 1988. It requires a minimum percentage of the state budget to be spent on K-14 education, guaranteeing an annual increase in education in the California budget. As a result of Proposition 98, a minimum of 40% of California's general fund spending is mandated to be spent on education, and the actual percentage of the general fund spent on education is over 50%. Talking about Prop 98 and looking at this graph, you can see changes in the minimum guarantee over the past few years. Prop 98 spikes by $14.1 billion in the current year compared to 2021. This is because of the minimum guarantee and tracks the state general fund trends. State general fund revenue is estimated to increase by $32.4 billion between 20 and 21 and 21-22, and increase only an additional $184 million in 22-23. Consequently, the 22-23 minimum guarantee flattens out. Now, we've been hearing a lot about the governor's May revise, along with what the legislature is also proposing in looking at the LCFF funding factors. So these are all the ingredients that go into how we fund our schools. There's potentially an additional $2.1 billion in ongoing Prop 98 general fund to increase LCFF funding. We continue with supplemental and concentration grants, and those are based upon the percentage of unduplicated pupils, enrolled students who are either English learners, eligible for free or reduced price meals, or foster youth. There are 2 grade span adjustments that are applied as percentage increases to the base grant. Those are for K-3 at 10.4% and 9-12 at 2.6%. The May revision increases LCFF base grants by the 6.56% statutory COLA, an increase in funding per student, not total funding. Base grants are provided by grade span. Those are K-3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9-12. So what does all that look like when you turn it into numbers? Here, when you look at K-3, for example, if we look at the first column, beginning at the base grant per ADA, then you go down and you add the COLA, that's the 531. Then you add the 266 for additional LCFF investment. Then you add those up, you have your base grant per ADA. You add on your grade span adjustment, that's only for K-3 and 9-12. And that gives you your adjusted base grant per ADA. On top of that, Dr. Levy talked earlier about our supplemental funding. And then also, because of our high UPP count, we also receive concentration funding. Okay. There are a lot of hot topics out there. I know it's hard to believe regarding education, but we have things happening with LCFF funding levels, ELOP funding, home to school transportation, special education, the mandated block grant, K-12 school facilities, deferred maintenance, community schools, math and science professional development, just to name a few. We have the governor funding at one level for some of these topics and the legislature wanting to fund at another. For example, for home to school transportation, that's not mentioned for funding in the governor's revise, but you have the legislature wanting to put money forward for that. You also look at deferred maintenance, community schools, and math and science. Those aren't mentioned. You have your mandated block grant that increase. There is additional special education funding coming forward, and we're hopeful that K-12 school facilities funding come forward also so that we could benefit from that. So those are some things that you're going to be hearing about, and we have everything being voted on this month, and we'll be able to inform our budget based on these hot topics as we move into the end of June. So when we look at ADA, this has been another hot topic in education because ADA is how we fund our schools. So LEAs are funded based on attendance. Attendance is calculated using the percentage of students who actually attend school, and that rate is captured during each fall, and we call this CBEDS. For the past 3 years, we've been using our ADA from 1920. In 2021, the state allowed hold harmless, so we were able to use the 1920 ADA numbers again. Thus, we do not have an actual ADA number for 2021. Then in 21-22, this year, we were allowed to use the current or prior year ADA because our enrollment dropped. Now it's been proposed that LEAs or districts use the current or prior year or a 3-year average or whichever is greater. The ADA 3-year average is most beneficial for Oceanside because of our declining enrollment, and that is what we've been advised to do by the county. So you'll see how that changes once you go into the next 3 years. So now we have our multi-year projection assumptions, and what we call these basically are your ingredients for your budget. You've got everything you put in is ending up what you end up getting as your final budget. And so you have things that are your revenue, and then you have things that are your constant for your expenditures. The yellow section, although I don't think you can see it up here, it's yellow on my PowerPoint. The yellow section, or the top 4, are the assumptions provided us from the state. The bottom 4, which are blue, are specific to OUSD. The first row is the attendance ratio of students. Then we have the COLA that's provided for the fiscal year 22-23, and it's expected to increase from 5.33% to 6.56%. However, after next year, we see that the COLA is expected to slowly decline. We also have anticipated costs for CalSTRS and CalPERS. Declining enrollment plays a big role in how we are funded because when we have fewer students enroll and come to school, we have less money coming into our schools. This year we lost 112 students, but for the next 2 years we anticipate losing 412. That is a conservative assumption. We're hopeful that that's not the case, but that's what we're still being advised to use for budgeting. We also have to factor in the increasing cost of 7% for health and welfare and an increased cost in utilities as well as step and column. This year we have something called the 10% reserve cap, also called the Prop 98 reserve. As a result of the balance in the public school system stabilization account, also called the Prop 98 reserve, the statutory limitation on school districts' reserves has been triggered for the 22-23 budget period. A state law caps the reserves a school district may hold for undesignated purposes once the Prop 98 reserve exceeds 3% of the minimum guarantee. Beginning in the 22-23 fiscal year, the district reserve cap requires that school districts' adopted or revised budget shall not contain a combined assigned or unassigned ending general fund balance of more than 10% of those funds. Because of this law, staff will suggest commitments for the 22-23 budget for the amount exceeding the 10% cap. So there's 3 things that you can do when you have a cap. You can spend it down, which I don't advise a fire sale at this time of the school year to spend it down. You can ask for a waiver, but the county will say to you, well, did you commit the funds? Or you could commit the funds, which is what we're going to suggest tonight. So here's a familiar grid that we share with you, or table that we share with you on the unrestricted summary. The first one, our unrestricted MYP for the next 3 years shows anticipated revenues and expenses. Revenues adjust based on the assumptions that are included in the budget. Expenses adjust based on how much the district expects to spend each year. We anticipate a slight increase in the unrestricted expenditures in 23-24 and 24-25. These are due to increases in the Consumer Price Index, considering for inflation for books and supplies and services, our step and column, STRS and PERS, as well as health and welfare and utilities. The net change in fund balance shows that in 23-24 and 24-25, we will begin to deficit spend. This is also attributed to COVID funds no longer helping to offset general fund costs as well as the increases in expenditures. The ending fund balance becomes the beginning fund balance for the next fiscal year. Because we don't need any additional funds to meet the reserve, we are able to successfully meet our obligations for the next 3 years, resulting in a positive budget. The state requires districts to the size of OUSD to maintain a reserve of at least 3%, but not more than 10%. The 3% is calculated on the expenditures of the combined summary. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So we always talk about unrestricted, then we talk about combined. When you have your combined, that's when you have both your unrestricted and your restricted budgets. With revenue, the decreases from 22-23 and 23-24 because COVID funding is falling off. We budget both what we anticipate to receive as well as what we anticipate to spend. This also includes the decrease in ADA and COLA that year. For expenses, the expenses go down in 23-24 because of fewer COVID-related expenditures from the previous year. We also make our last CERP payment. Expenses increase slightly in 24-25 due to everything that I noted before as to why our expenses increase, and that's always because of the CPI, the increase in health and welfare, step and column, utilities, and STRS and PERS. With our net change, you can also see the deficit spending taking place in 23-24 and 24-25, and that's because we are outspending our revenue at that point. We have the ending fund balance. The beginning fund balance is, or the difference between the total revenues and the total expenditures, and then you have your adjusted ending fund balance. I'm sorry, I went backwards. There we go. I'm holding the clicker, which I never do. I always say next slide. Sorry about that. That's the difference between the ending. And thank you for noticing, Mercedes. You're paying attention to my thing. I appreciate that. The ending fund balance minus the restricted amount and the non-spendables and other commitments. This amount does not include the assignments, just the amounts that are to be spent in more restrictive ways. Okay. We have non-spendables and other commitments. That's anything prepaid, such as contracts, the OPEB, and committed funds, revolving cash and stores. We have no reductions needed, and so you can see on the bottom line, that's what our 3% reserves are. So this is really exciting that we're able to put forth a positive budget. I'm going to now explain, this is my last overcomplicated table. We go back to a narrative after this, but this is the components of the ending fund balance. And so this is important for many reasons, and especially as we move into the next year and talk about not being able to exceed that 10% cap. So at the end of the year, you have funds that you need to assign. Those are funds that might be a result of increased revenue beyond what was expected originally. It might be because we had anticipated to expend funds from one account, but then we were able to pay it from another. It could be because things didn't cost as much as we anticipated. So we start with our non-spendables, and then for 21-22, and then you can see for 22-23, those go down because that's the removal of the CERP. We have restricted, those are our titles, Medi-Cal, lottery, and COVID funding. And then we have our committed. Committed has always been $512,500. That's been for our post-retirement obligations. And I'm going to stay in this year and go down to assigned. So we have just over $22 million that we're going to be assigning right now. And so what that means is that we take the money that's not currently allocated towards a specific budgeted amount, and we assign it to what we feel would be most beneficial for the students in the district. And for that, we have a technology refresh and investments, an ADA stabilization plan. What we did was we looked at what should our ADA percentage be, which is typically 94%, and what is it going into the next year, which is just over 92, 91. And we look at that difference in percentage and what that funding would be. And then we have our supplemental concentration carryover. We have to carry that over, so that's an assignment. And then we have a declining enrollment mitigation for 2 years. So we looked at how much money are we losing by losing 410 students per year. And that's how we calculated that. And then we have instructional materials. So those are the assignments for this year. So if we go back up to committed for 22-23, that's the amount over the 10% that we'll be committing. So we have the post-retirement as usual. We have to spend the LCFF supplemental concentration carryover, so we've committed that. And then we put in 1 year of declining enrollment mitigation. In our assignments, we have technology refresh and investments, ADA stabilization for 2 years, instructional materials, and deferred maintenance. So that's what's in the assignments. And then we always have to have our 3% reserve, which is calculated on expenditures on the combined summary. And so that's our suggestion for commitments and assignments moving forward. our actions to ensure fiscal solvency. We're going to continue collaborating with the San Diego County Office of Education. We closely monitor student enrollment and adjust classified and certificated staffing accordingly. We reduce staff as funding timelines expire. For example, as title grants and COVID funding expire, we want to make sure that any staffing that had been hired during that time, we transition out of. We're going to evaluate health and welfare costs, identify possible reductions in contracted services, and continue to incorporate updated revenue and expenditures as they become available for current and multi-year projections. And our next step is to approve and adopt the final budget on June 28th. We complete the year-end close and unaudited actuals, and then we present the unaudited actuals and the revised budget on September 13th. And that's all. So we have questions or comments? Thank you. Item 8C is issue of bonds for Prop H. The resolution authorizes the sale of the 6 series of new money bonds under the district's Proposition H authority, which shall be used for school construction and modernization projects authorized under such proposition and accomplishes several actions. It establishes the broad parameters for the sale of such bonds. It approves certain documents on file and available for review at the district office. It describes the specific structure of the bonds, and it requests that the county issue such bonds on behalf of the district. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 51, authorizing the issuance of and terms of sale of not to exceed $15,005,674 bonds of the Oceanside Unified School District.
Any questions?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
First and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 8C, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 8D.
Thank you. This is refunding bonds. The relatively low level of current interest rates provides the district an opportunity to fund certain existing bonds to generate taxpayer savings by issuing refunding bonds. Issuing refunding bonds is similar to refinancing a home mortgage. It is relatively common for California school districts to issue refunding bonds in connection with new money bonds or when savings are sufficient to justify a standalone transaction. In this case, the district expects to generate significant present value savings on not to exceed 15 million refunding bonds transactions. It's recommended that the Board of Education adopt resolution number 52, authorizing the issuance of and terms of sale not to exceed $15 million of refunding bonds of the Oceanside Unified School District.
I'll make that motion. A second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 8D, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 9, diversity, equity, and inclusion. 9A.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Board and Superintendent Dr. Vitale and staff. This is the last of the board items in our package of summer programming for all of our enrichment summer programming that we'll be offering to our schools. Specifically, this is for Jefferson Middle School. We partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside to provide summer 2022 intercession at Jefferson Middle School. Students will have the opportunity to explore a variety of college and career-centered activities, and the Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside site leaders will support our students by creating a safe and welcoming environment during summer intercession. Their team will collaborate with us and our students to design enrichment opportunities based on student interests. Summer intercession will include programming such as science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, otherwise known as STEAM, athletics, literacy, and social-emotional learning. The Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside will prioritize enrollment for students that identify as foster homeless and transitional or qualify for free and reduced lunch. We are recommending that the Board of Education approve the agreement between OUSD and the Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside for this summer intercession program at Jefferson Middle School.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Sparks?
Thank you. This addresses the question I had last month. And do you know how many students are in it? the curveball.
We're actually still enrolling. So right now we have an interest list of about 70 students, and so we're combing through that interest list and reaching out to families to enroll more students before the program starts.
This is phenomenal. It's our community school, our middle school. It's a community school. Our first one, we're going to have the second one added on. But this is the extended learning piece of that, which I'm thrilled to go check out this summer. Thank you.
I'm excited for the work and that we're doing with these programs, and thank you to Boys and Girls Club for working and collaborating also and being there to support our students. This is a great thing we offer again to have these enrichment programs and opportunities for our students, keeps them busy, keeps them occupied, keeps their brains working, and I love that. So just it being a STEAM program makes it even so much better. So thank you for getting that and making that happen.
Move approval.
A second.
I agree. I think it's fantastic.
All right, we have a first and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 9A, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 9B.
Thank you. So over the past few years, OUSD has made a concerted effort to incorporate and improve restorative practices in daily school culture. Restorative practices empowers students to learn skills to self-advocate, self-regulate, and use relationships to address wrongdoing. Used as a means to humanize each other in all situations, restorative practices is not a punitive tool, but will be a critical component of our social-emotional learning approach, continuing moving forward, which we continue to build on in OUSD. Restorative practices leads to fewer incidents with school discipline and improved school climate, improved attendance, and improved academic outcomes. This 2-year program with the National Conflict Resolution Center will run from July 1st through June 30th, 2024. Based on diagnostics finding, this program will develop capacity at our school sites to promote shared understanding, build restorative systems, and address harm when it occurs through restorative classrooms and providing restorative support to students. OUSD staff will participate in professional learning and co-create K-12 curriculum that integrates restorative practices approach. Coaching sessions will model foundational elements of community building and growth for classroom teachers. This partnership with the National Conflict Resolution Center and the San Diego County Office of Ed is funded 3 different ways from us, their team, and also the National Conflict Resolution Center, and it provides 2 full-time coaches available solely to Oceanside Unified to support our restorative practices efforts across the district. So we are recommending that the Board of Education approve the agreement with National Conflict Resolution Center and the San Diego County Office of Education for the implementation of successful restorative practices within the district.
Thanks, Dr. Sparks. We have one public comment on this item, Ann.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Dr. Jordy Sparks, who's like the leader of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, say that there is no punitive damages. Punitive means punishment. So what is restorative practices or restorative justice? So according to Wikipedia, restorative practices or restorative justice is a social science that studies how to improve and repair relationships between people and communities. The purpose is to build healthy communities, increase social capital, decrease crime and antisocial behavior, repair harm, and restore relationships. So some of the ideas that they use for restorative justice in the classroom is mindfulness, which is taking deep breaths. Restorative circles. So they sit in a circle, they talk about their feelings, and they sing Kumbaya. Affective statements. They state their feelings. Collaborative class agreements. So you have the students come up with their own class rules. Interesting. Problem solving, anchor chart. So as a parent, basically this tells me that the teachers are not in control, but the kids are, and their ideas. And there's no punitive damage. So that means, you know, kids are allowed to be out of control. So that's a scary situation as a parent to want to send our kids to these schools where in Chicago, it's so out of control that teachers are getting beat up and teachers have no power, no authority, and no support from the district. So I don't know. This sounds very scary to me, these restorative practices.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions for Dr. Spark?
I don't have any questions. I just have a quick comment. I am thrilled about this. When you talk about, you think about it in reality about a student that gets into a conflict, and then our traditional or old way of thinking about it would be to remove that child, right? Get them away from everybody else. And none of that provides learning or accountability in a way that moves the child forward and keeps them learning. This change in the way that we think about how we work with students and hold them accountable for their behavior is so important to have somebody to lead this work, because just not kicking them out of the classroom doesn't all of a sudden help them learn either. So it's really great that we're investing in making this our policy district-wide, and that we have professionals who understand how to do it the right way. So thank you for taking up this work. Thank you.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
First and a second. Seeing no more questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 9B, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item area 10, policy development. 10A, adoption of resolution number 50. Mr. Joyce, would you read the resolution for us?
Yes, thank you for allowing me the honor. This is the recognition of LGBTQ plus Pride Month, June 2022. Whereas the Oceanside Unified School District advocates and promotes the safe, inclusive, and respectful treatment of all of our students and staff as part of the district's social emotional supports. Whereas the district is committed to providing a safe space for all students and staff, including the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning community, or those that may be perceived as such. Whereas the California Education Code, Section 200, ensures that all students and staff receive equal access and rights to educational opportunities in public schools. Whereas the Oceanside Unified School District commits to the implementation of the Fair Education Act into the K-12 curriculum, whereas the month of June is an opportunity to highlight the identities and contributions of the LGBTQ plus community, and June 2022 in particular marks the 52nd anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, which highlighted and served as the catalyst for the struggle for LGBTQ plus rights. Whereas sexual orientation and gender expression biased bullying is among the most common form of harassments in schools. Whereas the Board of Education adopted a board policy on gender identity and access during the February 11th, 2020 board meeting, which further outlines the services, supports, and protections provided to such students, staff, and families. Whereas by recognizing Pride Month, we support other policies, practices, and curricula that honor and respect LGBTQ plus students and staff as valued members of the Oceanside community. Whereas by recognizing Pride Month, we support the other policies, practices, and curricula that honor and respect LGBTQ plus students, staff, and their families. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Oceanside Unified Board of Education declares June 2022 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month and directs the superintendent and all district staff to continue supporting lessons, activities, conversations that engage students in meaningful learning and research and writing about our LGBTQ plus students, staff, and families. Thank you.
Thank you for reading that. I'll make a motion to approve. We have one public comment. All right, 4 public comments.
Hey, good evening again. So this declaration, which let's be honest, will be signed regardless of what I or the other commenters are about to say. Will be signed by you all. But however, I would like to take note of the actions of the district, like changing the logo to the pride flag and raising the flag. It's pure virtue signaling, and here's why. There's only similar efforts, or the only times that you did this was during Black History Month, which by changing the logo, and before I go any farther, I just want to say, I respect everybody. We're all created in the image of God. We are all and we're all on equal footing. We all, men, women, we are all endowed by our Creator. So going forward, you did this for Black History Month. That's awesome. People are beautiful in their blackness. In March, it's Women's History Month. It got mentioned, but Irish heritage was not. In May, it's the month of the military child. There's a big population here. It's also Asian American and Pacific Islander Month. Those were both mentioned and proclaimed, but Jewish American History Month had no mentioning. June is also Caribbean American Month, but there is no mention there. Native American Heritage Month was last November, and there was nothing mentioned either. Those are all represented here in Oceanside. All those ethnicities, races, and cultures are represented here in Oceanside and within the district. And today is a national holiday. It's American Flag Day. The flag, that flag right there, which represents all Americans, just not one culture, or let me rephrase it, the American culture. All right, and it's our nation's flag. It's a symbol of strength, hope, justice, and freedom. It's the same flag that I've seen draped over fallen service members on tarmacs overseas many times. And there was nothing mentioned about it on social media. There was no changing of the logo. That's our flag. It represents us, all of us, no matter our race, creed, whatever. That's our flag, and it was not mentioned at all. And it's just one day. So, how is that showing equity to our diverse student body? Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Emily Richmond.
Now, the superintendent's leadership has put the school district in the limelight this month, and flags are serving to the purpose to acknowledge and to highlight our students. Eleanor, what are your leadership skills for the 4% African American and Black students to put them in the limelight? Where is their flag that they could look at and be proud? Raquel, Latino students, the majority in our district, 56%. Where is their flag? I am hoping this year's Hispanic Month resolution will be better written and include facts about the inception and purpose of the Hispanic Month. Eric, the Asian Pacific Islanders, where was their flag last month to show their pride in their ohana? You all really need to do a better job to honor all our students in the school district, to continue to support with lessons, engage students in meaningful learning, research, and writing about all the students and their staff and family. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so last month when I spoke about you guys pushing the agendas on our children that are extremely vulnerable, Eric Joyce, you said that you are not pushing this agenda of LGBTQ, and yet I see you raising the flag here really high. You're on the news, you're on YouTube, and you said you're not pushing the agenda. So you also lied, and we have you on record as lying, and yet you're running for city council. That's shameful. Also, I have all of the board members that were here for LGBTQ, We have Stacy, we have Eleanor, we have Raquel, we have Mike, all standing around the gay pride flag. And we have Julie Vitelli. So she is sponsored by ACSA and is serving as a conference chair. This conference is the first of its kind focused on creating safe and affirming spaces for LGBTQIA plus students and staff. She also serves as a chair for the San Diego County Office of Education, LGBTQIA plus the Advisory Committee. Dr. Vitelli has presented at national, state, and local conferences and is published on various topics, including creating affirming schools for LGBTQ students and staff, whole system reform. So that tells me very clearly that your purpose and your agenda, Ms. Vitelli, is to promote a whole system reform, because we have you here. You are also all over the news for the wrong reasons. Oceanside Unified Superintendent Dr. Julie Vitelli announced as Pride by the Beach 22 keynote speaker. So let me just say also, I noticed there are 35 flags and 35 genders, and I can't keep up. I don't know what's next. I mean, heterosexuals don't get a Pride Month. We don't go parading our sexuality and shoving it down kindergarten and first graders in our lessons. I don't know. I mean, your sexuality is your choice as an adult, but leave our students out of it. I mean, what is next? Bestiality? Incest? Love is love, right? Where do we draw the line? We need a new school board. We need a new superintendent. This is not okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have more speakers? Is that it? No, you have to save it to the end. I'm so sorry.
Thanks for volunteering, though.
Thanks for volunteering, but no. All right. I made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second. That's,
I can't hear you. You have to talk into your mic, Eleanor. You second. Okay. I have a
I'll second it.
First and a second. Any questions or comments?
I would just say we're really proud of your resume of leadership. Thank you.
Yeah. Rock on. All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 10B.
Yes, 10B is a revision to board policy just to keep us updated with current language from CSBA for our students who are homeless and transitional. So we're just recommending that the board adopt this updated language to board policy 6173.
Any questions for staff? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Seeing no other questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 10C.
Thank you. This is Board Policy 3511, Energy and Water Management. We have a need to update this policy. It was last revised on January 17th of 2017. This policy is being updated to add new sections of Ed Code and legal references. After reviewing CSBA's newest and most updated version, it is being proposed that this policy be replaced in its entirety with the attached version.
Thank you for the explanation. I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second.
Any questions from the board? No. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 10C, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 10D.
Thank you. This policy regards animals at school. It's 6163.2. It was last revised March 8th of 2011. This policy is being updated to reflect rules and procedures regarding animals on district property. The admin regulations will also be updated to include information regarding dogs only being allowed on school grounds for instructional purposes when it has been approved by the superintendent or their designee. Tonight, we have a presentation to go along with this. We have Joey Rada, if I'm saying that correctly, from Lincoln Middle School, who will be sharing a presentation with the board illustrating the need to limit access for dogs at school sites.
Thank
Thank you. It's Rhoda, but no problem. Oh. Thank you for having me. So I'm one of 3 PE teachers at Lincoln Middle School. The PE department we've had concerns about dog creating health and safety issues for students on our campus for a long time. This past year, we went to our administration and we basically presented this PowerPoint, and I've been asked to come here today and share it with all of you. So we feel that the fields at Lincoln Middle School that we use for PE and extracurricular activities should not double as an after-school dog park. This issue has been around for over a decade. This is an article from 2012. The title is School Officials Fight Dog Poop Problem. This is some signage that we have at school. So you can see we've got a sign that all pets must be on a leash. Please clean up after your pet. There's some pet waste stations. And before, I don't know what the summer policy is, but when we made this, people were able to come on to campus at 4 p.m. I Googled Lincoln Middle School. This was months ago, so I'm not sure if this is still the first review, but this is a review, and the first one I saw when I Googled Lincoln Middle School, it says, this review is for the field only when school is not in session. The school opens its field for dogs. It's a great big field for dogs to run around and release their energy. What's also good is it's completely fenced, enough space for all kinds of dogs. We love taking our dog here and walking around the field for exercise. So we clearly have signs that say all pets must be on a leash, but if you come around Lincoln Middle School after 4 p.m., you'll see anywhere from 10 to 50 dogs out there, and almost all, I would say, 99% of them are not on a leash. And this is the results, some of the results. We have a gopher problem as well, so the dogs dig after the gophers, create a bunch of holes in the field. The picture on the far right is our track. After it rains, it gets wet. The dogs come, run around, and it creates a very uneven surface for students as they're running the track. Here's some pictures of feces. We've got some feces on the numbers where students sit. We've got a soccer ball with feces on it, and then the picture on the right is just a picture of more dog poop. The remains of picked up feces, in quotes. If anyone has a dog, you know that the poop isn't always solid. So when you try to pick up those wet ones, it leaves quite a bit of poo still in the grass. And then we have a lot of pee around the trash cans, around the doors, things like that. And we see this every day we come to work. There are a lot of people that do pick up their poop, which is great. And there's a big trash can full of it, usually on a Monday after a weekend. But, the kids are on campus over the weekend. They're, for whatever reason, grabbing some of the feces bags, and they throw them against the walls and the roof, things like that. Let's see. Okay, the waste that dogs leave along with the holes, they create unnecessary safety hazards for students and educators that we should not be subjected to. At the top of the pet waste station, it clearly states that pet waste transmits disease. On the CDC website, it says dog poop should be picked up, even in your own yard, and especially in areas where children may play. These were links that we had that we could open up. We won't get into them, but the second one is human diseases that are transmitted by dog poop. So there was a couple listed in there. And then the last one was 5 diseases you can catch from your pet. And the number 1 was from dog feces. Some more pictures of students with feces on clothes and skin. already talked about this, but the dogs are digging for gophers, creating holes, uneven track. We have a lot of after-school sports. And then, of course, during PE, we have students out there running, jumping on these uneven surfaces, which cause injury. And I think we've been very lucky to not see a major injury with these. This was a specific hole that a security guard broke his ankle the school year of 2021. So by now, it should be clear that allowing our fields to be used as a giant dog park produces more than simple inconvenience. The waste and holes left in the aftermath create an unsafe environment for students and staff alike. And then a quick reminder of our district's first listed value. It says that our students are our highest priority. Every decision is made to maximize our students' well-being. We felt that we should stay true to our values, and we need to find a solution to this problem. It should not have been allowed to exist for this long.
Thank you for that thorough presentation. I'll make a motion to approve.
We do have one.
Do we have one public comment? Oh, sorry. Jumped the gun.
Renee Fernandez.
Hello. I don't normally talk in public. I actually agree with the gentleman before us. Our school sites are dog parks. People are allowed to let their dogs run wild. Please, sorry. Kid? No?
Is that you?
Hey, baby. Thank you. That is all. Doggy bags, I carry them everywhere I go. The problem I actually have with this is that your glasses that you have, if you don't have them and you can't see and you can't drive, you can't go to work, you can't go to the store, you can't do anything like that. My glasses and my service dog, I have to have him wherever I go because my disabilities are so numerous that I would be permanently hospitalized or institutionalized and not be able to be around my family, my friends, have a job, and I would be a burden to society. But what you have written here excludes him. He is part of a disability. So what I did is I went and I looked at other school districts' policies, and they're changing. And they are going to what is written here, which I completely agree after being chased by dogs during school hours on district property because a kid jumps a fence, hits the panic bar, opens the thing, and lets their dogs run it. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with a dog not on a leash. I have an issue with supposed service dogs. So what I did is to be fair to the school district, to be fair to the students, and to be fair to people like me who do follow the rules. I have my licenses and stuff. Some of the districts are putting in, the district assumes no liability for the safety of animals voluntarily brought to school. That's what they're adding to what you want to do here. So that covers me because it's a federal offense for anybody to attack the dog or myself. It's a state offense. It's against the Disabilities Act. But what you're saying is that because he has to be with me, it's all my fault because these people are coming on campus not following the rules.
All right, your
Yeah,
public comment time is up.
President Begin.
Give you some
Renee,
extra time for dropping.
I just want to assure you that service dogs like Courage will be allowed on campus, and we'll have a process outlined in our ARs to make sure that they are. So Courage is still welcome.
I know, but I just thought that you are assuming no liability for the safety of an animal allowed on district property.
Dr. Vitale's correct. I've already drafted the AR, and I've looked at several different districts to ensure that the ADA that we're in compliance with ADA, and in no way would this impact your ability to have your dog on campus. And that's going to be in the ARs. And that's something that you and I can sit and work together on also if you'd like to review it. But it's not typically what's in the policy. That goes in your admin regs.
I just note that it's in the district policy.
We are having a conversation.
I'm sorry.
So we're out of order.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
All right, so we can definitely follow up on this, right?
I'll be
to make sure that it's fine, but I would move for the approval.
Oh, I have a comment.
Yes.
Okay. I have a comment.
To us.
I am a dog fancier. You know, I'm probably one of the most, I won't say famous, but I am a dog fancier, Great Dane dogs. I was president of the Great Dane Club of San Diego. I was the national president of Great Dane Rescue for the Great Dane Club of America. My dogs have won national specialties. They've been in the movies, Best of Breed. They were models for Macy's department store. Okay. And downline, I must have about 200 champions. So I consider myself, you know, a dog lover, a dog fancier. I also had the opportunity to teach at Lincoln, as well as other positions at Lincoln Middle School in Oceanside. And as a humanities teacher and English teacher, one of my joys was always taking my students outside to read, silent reading, to take them outside to write, to take them outside to do watercolors, you know, as it related to whatever society or geographical area we were studying. I believe in, you know, like having students be our top priority. Unfortunately, this is during the 90s. This is how long ago. It's almost impossible at that time. There was waste, dog waste everywhere, and no one was picking it up. You know, my first day.
Whoa.
Who said that? Then you need to leave, sir.
All right.
All right, you guys. We have students and community watching, so let's treat each other with respect. This is part of a board meeting held in public. Eleanor is wrapping up her comment to us. Please.
As I was going to say, you know, it was almost impossible to be able to teach outside. The PE teachers were constantly complaining about the situation. So I'm very much supportive of this proposal, yes.
So I made a motion to approve. Are you seconding?
I will second.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 10D, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We're going to come back at 9:15. We have quite a few public comments on non-agenda items, and I want to make sure we're nice and fresh for those comments. Thank you for setting the timer. Each person generally has 3 minutes to speak. The total time for public input may be limited to 20 minutes per item or topic. So, Anne, do we have a certain topic with lots of speakers? 8 speakers. So that's 24 minutes. All right, we'll let him speak for 3 minutes. That's 4 extra minutes. All right, call him up.
The topic is surf PE. Our first speaker will be Richard Smith. After Richard, it will be David Porter.
Come on up.
Do you want to give a couple more so they know who's coming next? So we can.
Okay. So Richard Smith, David Porter. Now you have Sarah on this, but you only have 3 minutes between. Okay. Gotcha. Got you.
So if you decide you don't want to speak, you can just say pass, but we love listening to public comment.
Richard Smith, David Porter, Danielle Steele, Taylor Brumbaugh, Margot Alexander. I'm messing up your names, I know. Alyssa, Sarah Porter, Mike and Alexander. So in that order, I'll remind you.
All right, start the clock, and you're up.
All right. Hello, my name is Richard Smith. I'm here on the behalf of my child and numerous other children at Oceanside High for the cancellation, actually the abrupt cancellation of Surf PE. We were notified last Monday, prior to finals week, that Surf PE was not going to be offered any longer. It is a safe, it is a healthy sport, a healthy activity. It creates self-awareness and self-control in critical situations. It's a great learning experience for our kids, fantastic for oceanography, and it's a great part of our community as Oceanside. You guys mentioned Oceanside as community, and going into Portrait of a Graduate, the future of our community is the kids. There's a huge surf community within Oceanside, from surf shops, surfboard manufacturing, clothing manufacturing, and alternate avenues for career enhancement for these kids in post-high school and college. Amazing sport, like I said. I'm avid in it. My son has been in it for 3 semesters at Oceanside High, and when he was pulled into the counselor's office and she informed him that it was no longer offered, he was devastated, and it definitely affects whether my child continues at Oceanside High. I was told this and asked the teacher of the class, and he was not informed that the class was canceled. So how the chain of communication lies from this board to the board at Oceanside High, I'm unfamiliar with. But obviously there is a link missing somewhere. Oceanside also, as a surf community, hosts local, regional, state, and international surf competitions. Here, there is currently a national competition going on at Oceanside Harbor, national championships, okay? We have people coming from all over the world to come to Oceanside and experience our ocean. And we cancel Surf PE, a great avenue for our children to involve themselves. We have 2 local kids who are on the global surf world, who are featured on webcast and television internationally with their names blurred out and Oceanside being mentioned. I've been overseas in a little country called New Zealand wearing my Oceanside board rider shirt. And a guy comes up to me, he's like, I've been to Oceanside. I love that place. Like, we have a tremendous asset within Surf PE. It needs not to be expelled and eliminated. It needs to be expanded. It needs to be enhanced. It needs to be nurtured throughout the school. Our kids get amazing self-awareness, self-guidance, and tremendous health benefits out of this class. Please do not remove this class. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Porter.
This is the middle school championship trophy.
thank you. I want to tell the board I appreciate the opportunity to say some words here. So this is a rhetorical question because I know you can't answer, but what are the elements that make up a school? Right? It's the educators, it's the students, it's also the community and the culture, and that's what I want to talk about is the community and culture, and it was hit on before. I'm a local Oceanside father of 2 girls who are going to Oceanside High School. And Oceanside is a birthplace of some of the greatest surfers, some of the surf industry, surf shops, shapers, and manufacturers. And it's really in the DNA of our community here in Oceanside. 3 weeks ago, on May 23rd, the USA Surfing organization recently named Oceanside an official training ground for USA Surfing. Oceanside is also the host city for USA Surfing Championships that was just spoken about for adult shortboarders, longboarders, stand-up paddleboarders, and parasurfers. Phil Edwards, don't know if you know him, but he was the world's first professional surfer and came from Oceanside. My point is this is baked into our community and our DNA. And I look up some academic articles, right, from the Journal of Physical Education on surfing on physical education curriculum and the impact of students' well-being. And I'm going to quote, it says, surfing has been established as a valuable therapeutic approach in managing the well-being of combat vets, improving social skills in children and adolescents with autism, and creating stimulating learning environments for children with disabilities, and promoting personal well-being and social integration of vulnerable children and adolescents. I guess I'm just here to tell you that, the decision as a parent, I feel like was made in a vacuum. And I understand that has to happen sometimes. And most of the things talked about tonight were additive in nature, but we don't talk about the things that are subtractive in nature that's going on. I surf out at the pier with my daughter at PE with all those kids. The community that's built between those kids, the things that they learn, and the people that they become, not just because of surfing, but the culture that it brings, and in overcoming the things. The surfing is not an easy sport. It's difficult. I just asked you to reconsider and maybe have this placed on a future agenda item for discussion. This is part of who we are here in Oceanside. It's part of who I am. And when I'm out there in the water, not only with the students, but with also other fellow people in the community taking part in it, it's something special. And I would hate to see that taken away, and I hope that you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much. I don't know how you guys do this. I've never been to a board meeting. I am so impressed that you guys have this job. So, my daughter Paisley will be a junior at Oceanside High School in the fall. She serves for PE, and this PE class is being threatened to be shut down. So there's this book I kept thinking about that I read when she was a little kid called Spark, The Revolutionary New Science of Exercise and the Brain. This book explains research that, and now I quote, proves that exercise is truly our best defense against everything from depression to ADD to addiction to aggression, close quote. Surf PE creates not only these best defenses, it helps build confidence. It gives these kids an opportunity to literally be surrounded in nature, unplugged, receiving vitamin D, which is important for health and life, and it brings them happiness. Yes, these high school kids could participate in other physical activities that are offered at Oceanside High School, but those activities do not resonate with some of them. So those activities will not bring them fulfillment. I've heard that this possible cancellation of Surf PE is because of how small the group of kids might be. But then I ask you, and I know it has to be rhetorical, do you not see value in minorities? Should minorities not be offered what they need? Should we cancel other programs that minorities have asked for and have rightfully been given? Should we dismiss the all-inclusiveness that I was hoping our nation was finally adapting to and adopting? Surf PE is an extremely healthy activity that continues on long after high school. It requires no equipment from the school. We don't need money from you. I played soccer, at a San Clemente High School in the late 80s and the 90s, and I also surfed. I still surf. I surfed this morning with my daughter Paisley. Let me tell you, it has been decades that I have played soccer. Why? Because do you know how impossible it is to get together about 20 people to play any sport when you're my age, or even when you're 30? The kids that I knew growing up that surf, guess what? They all still surf. Surfing helps us maintain perspective. It's something that we can enjoy our whole lives, even if we are living completely alone. If you are living an alone life, you can still get in the water. We surf with an older guy named Kurt. He's had one of the worst lives I have ever known. He's resilient. And one day, years ago, I asked him how he has made it through all that life has given him. And he told me that without surfing, he would have ended his life. He told me that surfing is his therapy and that he needs it constantly. We have a radical mental health crisis on our hands in this nation. Do you seriously want to cancel a program that creates a positive lifestyle and a healthy habit in these kids, that it'll be something they can turn to? I'm just going to add one more thing. Timing matters with surfing. If you don't surf, you don't understand that swell, wind, and tide matters. Okay, so the morning is the best time to surf. If you're not going to let these kids get out in the morning and surf, thank you so much.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Taylor?
Hello. I had a speech prepared, but I'm going to just keep it simple. So I am a middle school teacher. I've had many students who have promoted and have chosen to come to Oceanside High because they loved that surf was offered here. At our school, we value a diversified selection of electives, 3 different types of PE, personalized learning, and voice and choice. So I'm super stoked that Oceanside had this, and a lot of my kids like to go there, and I have a nephew that goes there and a niece that goes there, and so I came. Sorry, I'm going off my speech, so I'm just going from my head. So I came only because I know we're talking about closing down this PE program. I know that the numbers are here or there. That's probably why that's happening. But as Sarah has said before, these people still need it, these kids still need it, and whether it is 50, 20, or 5, it makes a big impact on these children, and they've been isolated and alone for 2 years, and the mental health is not okay with these kids, and for some of these kids, this is what they need, and they wake up in the morning, they want to go there, and they want to have this time, and it gets them ready to go to school, and guess what? They want to show up to high school. And that's half the challenge, is showing up. So they get excited, and for those 9 or 50, however number it is, they're excited to come to high school, and they're going to do amazing things when they move on. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank
Michael.
you.
Hi, my name is Margot Alexander, and I just graduated from Oceanside High School. Thank you. Today, I wanted to talk about the importance of surf PE and why it should not be taken from our students wanting to exercise and learn how to surf. Today, many students are busy, they have to work, they have to take care of their siblings and do hours of homework. They don't have time to go out and surf. Surf PE is a perfect opportunity for students to exercise while being in nature and to take full advantage of our environment. From my experience, during regular PE, we spent many hours indoors taking notes about fitness, while at surf PE you're outside and actually in nature. The beach is less than 5 minutes away from our school and is a perfect resource for children, especially those who don't know how to surf and who don't have the resource to learn how to surf outside of school. If the students are the district's main priority, it doesn't matter if there are 30 kids in a class or there are only 5. They should care about the students' mental health. I have many small classes, including AP Art History with less than 10 students and Calculus BC with 15 students, where the class size isn't a problem. But in today's world of mental health, exercise is just as important as learning and helps many students with mental health issues. We need to provide children opportunities to get outside and exercise, and Surf PE is one of those activities that a school like Oceanside should never abandon. Thank you.
Thanks for being patient with us. We're a rowdy crew, but we love this city, and we're big beach people, so it's important to us to keep this culture going, just like a lot of my friends back there have said. So I'm also a middle school teacher in Vista Unified, and I've had several students actually transfer to your school district, which is only a few blocks from my house. So, I love this place. But they've transferred to the school district to take Surf PE. So you're talking about declining enrollment, and this is an opportunity that even if you're picking up only like 4 or 5 students a year because of this class, they're coming in from another district. So that's actually going to help you with your enrollment. Currently, my niece is in the program, and I know after this virtual world from the pandemic, a lot of kids have really struggled coming back to in-person learning. And having a reason to come to an early morning class gets these kids to school and gets them back in this physical classroom, which, of course, I'm passionate about. So I would urge, it doesn't matter the numbers, that we keep this class. Just because this is Oceanside, we're going to gain students to this district because of this class, and it's so great for these kids to have a reason to come to school. Thanks.
My name's Mike and Alexander, and I have 3 kids in the Oceanside School District, one that you've already heard from who just graduated, so I guess I only have 2 now. But I'm also a therapist, and my caseload is filled to the brim with anxious and depressed teens. And I always ask them, what do you do to cope with the struggles in your life? And getting outside in nature is my greatest hope for them. So I hope that you guys consider that. I know money drives programs, but I think children's mental health should also be a top priority, because I think we can all agree that every child matters.
All right, that's it for our surfing topic. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Michael Alvarez. Is he still here?
Good evening, President, board members, and administration. I'm here on behalf of the scholars of OUSD School District, and I would just like to thank you for recognizing our achievements. And I also want to thank you for taking into consideration that we do need Chromebooks and counselors, because based upon my personal experiences, accidents do happen. Hardware gets broken, which means they need replacements. And as for counselors, children need support, especially because, well, things happen with other kids, and they need to be able to have somewhere to go to release and de-stress. It also helps them by talking things out so that there's not another Uvalde situation. Anyone who believes that counselors, for those that have no support, are ignorant of both public education and real-time needs of current students in the district. Another thing I would like to thank you for is the security, and whoever says there is not enough security in elementary schools and middle schools needs to do their research before coming out and speaking to the board about something so preposterous. Whoever said we are wasting our money, people saying that we are wasting our money, is obviously not in touch with the district needs and is just showing how ignorant they really are. I would like to say something towards the audience. Y'all really need to chill. This is targeting towards our boards and is really unnecessary. Y'all really need to go back to school and do your homework, because apparently y'all don't want to do it. So before you come here, you should really think before you do. Thank you.
Bradley Tobias.
So after hearing all that surfing talk, I want to go find a surfboard. I've never done it before. It sounds fun. Got me all pumped up. Learning new skills. That's what it's all about. So I'm gonna be short and sweet. It's getting late here, so I know that we all wanna go home. So just to jump right into it. Yesterday, Oceanside City Council member Christopher Rodriguez posted on Facebook about encouraging members of the public to run for the Board of Trustees in areas 1, 3, and 4, and offered support to include training for that. Dr. Stacy Begin, you commented on this. I quote, "What am a-hole?" End quote. I got screenshots to prove it. I'm assuming that you were simply trying to call the council member an a-hole. However, this is a violation of the district HR policies and the civility policy that was published last October, which says civil behavior is courteous and reasonable behavior, which is respectful to others and includes integrity, honesty, acceptance, timeliness, dependability, observance of laws and rules, and effective communication. Simply put, you violated that policy, Dr. Begin. And since you are my trustee representative, I feel like that's not representative of us in our trustee area. Since then, you have edited the comment to simply be, quote, OUSD. Finally, ma'am, I feel like you should offer the councilman a public apology, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Thank you.
Rose Higuera.
Oh my goodness, Stacy. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, the public has entrusted you guys to be leaders. What is happening? This is what we're talking about. We need leaders, strong leaders full of integrity and courage. We don't need followers. We don't need soft people that go with the agenda. We need people that leave the politics out and fight for our kids. I mean, the budget that you guys showed was like $124 billion. And what do we have to show for it? Kids that are completely stressed out and anxious and learning all kinds of garbage. Stick to education, reading, writing, math. My goodness, we need some good, strong leaders. So Eric Joyce's seat is coming up for election. Stacy's seat is coming up, and Raquel's. So I encourage you, moms and dads, with common sense. That's all we need, common sense leaders that are willing to put their feelings aside and fight for our kids, which they are going to be our future very, very quickly. We need you to run for these positions and do the right thing for our kids. Leave the politics and everything else out of it, and teach the kids how to compete in a global society where we need girls, in sciences, technology, engineering, math. We need boys to be boys and stay in their lane and not try to be girls and not try to get our girls' scholarships, not try to come in our girls' locker rooms and use our girls' bathroom. We need protection for our kids. So we need some fighters, some strong fighters. So I encourage people that are listening, please run for those seats. We need leaders desperately, and we need them now because things are very aggressively changing and unfortunately not in the right direction. So thank you.
Patrick Higuera.
Yeah, you guys crack me up how you're giving yourselves all pats on the back. Oh, we're doing such a great job, this and that. This comes from greatschools.org. Out of the 11 schools that we have in our district, 3 of our schools scored high, a 6 out of 10. Wow, that doesn't sound too good to me. 4 of them scored a 4. So it's obvious you guys aren't doing your job. You guys are not doing your job at all. As we've said to you before, reading, writing, arithmetic, U.S. history, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, traditional family values. That's what we want, traditional family values. You said it many, many times. Let's see what the Lord says about what you guys have been trying to push. Therefore, God has also given them up to uncleanliness and the lust of their hearts to dishonor their bodies among themselves, who exchanged the truth of God for the lie and worship and serve the creature rather than the creator. The creature, serving the creature rather than the creator who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions. When we worship the creature instead of the creator, we lose sight of our identity as those who have a higher caller than animals. These people chose to reject God, and God allowed them to do it. God does not usually stop us from making choices that are against his will. He lets us declare our supposed independence from him, even though he knows that in time we will become slaves to our own rebellious choices. Does life without God look like freedom to you? Look more closely. There is no worse slavery than slavery to sin. And then it goes on and says, many heathen practices encourages it. God is willing to receive anyone who comes to him in faith. And, I'm sorry, I stopped right. When people say that any sex act is acceptable as long as nobody gets hurt, they are fooling themselves in the long run. Sin hurts people, individuals, families, whole societies. How sad is that people who worship the things God made instead of the Creator so often distort and destroy the very thing they claim to value. Vitaly, I got a prophecy for you. I've said it before, and maybe you didn't understand it, but I'm going to say it to you again. This is a prophecy for you, Vitaly. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him or her if a millstone were hung around their neck and they were to be drowned in the depths of the ocean.
That is threatening.
You need to remember that.
Language. That's threatening
No,
language.
that's the word
and has
of God.
no
That's
place
the word.
in this
That is the
courtroom.
word of God, and don't disrupt me. It's my time to talk.
No.
I'm done.
Katie Taylor. Oh, she left. Jim Hinderleiter.
Good evening. I am Jim Hinderleiter. I am a special ed teacher in the Oceanside School District. I was born and raised in Oceanside, third generation Oceanside. I went to Palmquest, I went to Lincoln, I went to Oceanside, I went to El Camino High when El Camino High became El Camino High. And I've been teaching in the district for 25 years. I was an aide for 4 years here before that. I've seen a lot of superintendents come and go. I've seen a lot of board members my whole life. And let me tell you guys something. Where we're at right now, what I've seen and what we've been through, I think we're absolutely at the best place we have ever been in this district. I'm a Christian. I'm a conservative. And my daughter went to school here who had special needs, and she passed away at the age of 12. She attended Ivy Ranch, and agenda, political persuasions or whatever, that doesn't mean anything. What it means for me in this district is that she was loved. She was cared for. She was a part of that classroom. That's why I'm a special ed teacher right now. I make sure that my students are loved. They're part of the classroom. They participate. This young man who shot the school up in Texas hit me very, very personally because my daughter was their age. This boy didn't feel like he belonged. He didn't feel like he had a place. He had some speech impediments, and he felt he didn't fit in. He didn't have a place. So, let alone with the security and the gun violence and the use of guns and whatever else, I think it comes down to if we can give our students a sense of belonging, a sense of identity, that they're cared for and that they're loved, I think that will go a long, long way to having students who are engaged and who don't feel hopeless. I keep thinking of the term hopeless. It's horrible when a student comes to that part where they feel hopeless. I want to give them hope. You as a district, you as leaders, I believe you're doing that. I believe that you are giving our students hope. I think you're giving them purpose. And I just commend you for what you're doing. I'm very, very proud to be part of this district right now in the direction that we're headed. Thank you.
Susan Custer. Tracy Fannin.
Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes. I'm just going to make it short. I was going to say a lot of different things, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm really upset, but I'm going to try to make it all positive because that's about life. You know, a kid could stand in the classroom and say, sit down and shut up, and stand in your face, and you're going to sit down because that child has more control now than you do. But you are supposed to still try to make that child feel like they're included. But we do have new things, new challenges. We've got gun violence. People are talking about bringing guns to school, and we got to report things because we don't want something to go to the next step. We don't want to be the one where we didn't do what we needed to do, and the next day, 13 students died. So I'm a positive person, but I have to say that I decided for the last 3 months, my name is Tracy. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a little tired. Fannin is my last name. I'm Irish. I don't drink. That's funny. But I really care about all kids. I care about all cultures. It's not just about cultures. It's about those kids, every single one of them, no matter what grade they're in, no matter what age they are. But it's also about what we're doing in those classrooms. We can't ignore what's not being done. We have to try to do our job to do that. I think it's very important that we make it positive. Sometimes we have to give constructive criticism. However, it's also very important that we're honest and we tell the truth, that we don't blame someone else because we lacked in doing something that we should have done. We don't turn around stories and make people feel horrible. So I subbed in pre-K through 12th because I wanted to get to know Oceanside. I wanted to get to know the students. I wanted to get to know the people. I'm a highly qualified teacher. I've got a dual master's degree. I didn't have to substitute teach, but I knew I was new here. I knew I had to get to know you and the children. There's a lot of challenge now. It's not like it used to be. I've been in education for a while. I only took out a little while because I am a victim of identity theft. I went through a process. I won't go over here. If you want to know about my story, I'll tell you. It's a very unique one. I made it through it. But it's something that doesn't happen to too many people. And I made it through that too. I made it through many things. I don't believe that it's a bad thing to say you're a global leader or a global change agent if you look at it in the way you need to look at it. You're looking at it in that classroom because each student is different cultures, and you're going to help each one of them. I'm not going to ignore one of the cultures because there's a different culture in my room. I'm a global leader because I'm going to help each one of them that need that help. I'm not always 8 legs and 8 arms. I'm not an octopus, so I have to get around and do the best I can. However, I don't deserve to be let go.
3 minutes are
so
up.
I want to sum it up.
Your 3 minutes is up.
I'm going to agree that a substitute teacher is not my job.
Is that our last public comment?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
I would like to
the next
Nino?
speaker.
Well, I know the dog
Patty
part.
K.
You only have 3 minutes.
I have a master's in educational leadership.
I heard you, and you only have 3 minutes.
And
Do
I'll
we
tell
have
you about
anybody
my
else
traveling
tonight?
around the world later.
No, you can't do that. Is there anybody else?
I just want to say that there is a real good role model for your LGBTQ community that I'm want you to be aware of, and I don't know who your role model is, but he is a very accomplished, well-respected gay man, and he said on national television this week or last week that the only flag that he would be flying this month was the American flag. And I want to leave you with that thought. We are Americans. That's what keeps us together. These other groups divide us. He is an American first. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? All right. I adjourn the meeting at 9:54 p.m.